everyone, I'm Steph,
I'm Megan.
and welcome to another episode of Late Night Reads.
This week we are diving into the magical world of romantasy and covering The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer Armentrout. Love it.
So let's start with why we selected The Crown of Gilded Bones. Can't stop, won't stop. We are addicted to this world and these characters. It's why we're covering this entire series on the podcast, as well as the prequel. And we love a good cliffhanger, and the last book gave us that with the Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Like, what do you mean she's a deity? And then we read this book and we're like, what do you mean?
She's a god.
Like, God. What?
I knew it. I knew it too. I was like, oh, yeah, called it.
Called it.
But I was so happy to be right.
Right? Well, we're going to get to that because we're going to talk about all the things that theory-wise that we said last time, that some of which were crazy turned out to be true, and some of which were still crazy.
We're still crazy and we're not true at all. Yeah.
Not true at all. And we'll do it again for this book because we got a lot of
course. Yeah.
And speaking of crazy, we're crazy for Casteel. He gets better and better in every single book. And I feel like his love for Poppy is off the charts. And it's clear that like she's madly in love with him too. Plus, we get to see his vulnerable side, which he does have, which is a little unexpected and heartwarming. And then we love spice. And there is so much good spice in this book. So good. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, we get to see Alistair die. We have been waiting for this moment since the previous book. Bye-bye.
For sure. And so here are a few things that you should know about the author Jennifer Armentrout. She is a New York Times bestselling author and writes young adult, paranormal, science fiction, fantasy, and contemporary romance. So we definitely consider the Blood and Ash series to be an adult romantasy based on its very spicy content. And then Jennifer herself has a full house. She has a husband, a dog, multiple alpacas, goats, and sheep. It's a farm. I want to go visit and just like talk so much about everything in this book. She was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, which is a group of rare genetic disorders that involve a breakdown of death of cells in the retina, which eventually will result in loss of vision. So she's very passionate about educating people on the varying degrees of blindness, and another reason just to like be in awe of her as an author, honestly.
Before we jump into discussing the book, key reminders, you know it, you love it. This episode is going to contain spoilers. If you're listening, we assume you've read the book. You've been warned. And as all the books in this series, there are a lot of topics that may be sensitive for some readers. Assault, blood, bullying, child death, emotional abuse, kidnapping, murder, physical abuse, sexual assault, torture, violence, war.
Pretty much everything. Yeah. But now let's talk tropes. So first we have the royalty trope. Casteel is the Prince of Atlantia, and Poppy is the princess now that they are married. Huzzah! Plus, she has the right to the throne given her bloodline, and eventually she becomes the Queen of Atlantia with Casteel as king. Next, we have fated mates, which they are 100% heartmates, of course. If that wasn't obvious in the previous book, then it's definitely clear now. They would both burn down the world for each other. End of story. Next, we have the chosen one. Not only is Poppy a descendant of the gods, but she's an actual god herself. It really doesn't get any more chosen than that. Perfect. Then we have touch her and die. Casteel continues to threaten anyone who speaks negatively about Poppy or even tries to hurt her. We also see this start to flip because Poppy starts acting the same way, and she threatens anyone who hurts Casteel, or even comes near him, basically. Last, we have found family. So for years, Poppy has been without her parents since their deaths and without Ian since he ascended. So after meeting Casteel and Kieran, she now has her own found family where she starts to feel safe. And this group grows further as she is now bonded with all of the Wolven. Happy ever after.
Right? Or, well, yeah. Not at the end of this book yet.
But not really.
But not really.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We better get a happy ever after at the end of the series.
Oh, we better. We better.
All right. So in terms of every magical twist, there is a lot going on. And one of the things we love about her books is they pick up immediately after the previous book. So after the ending of A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, we are still reeling from the surprise. Like, what do you mean she's a descendant of the gods? And then, no, she's not just a descendant. She's an actual god. But we'll talk about that later. But as the book picks up, shit gets real fast because all of the Wolven bonds have broken, and now all of the Wolven are bonded to Poppy. Wait, what?
What?
Like, what? Just like, what?
It's so
which
crazy.
does finally explain like all these weird occurrences we kept talking about, like why did people feel staticky when they touched her? Why did, people say that she smelled like death? Well, now we know. It also explains, there's a quote that Kieran made last book that we were kind of like, what supersedes any oath that the Wolven have taken? Well, apparently this does. So it makes me wonder, when did he realize the truth about Poppy? Like, and he's not really clear about that in this book. I think he had suspicions, but we know that there was a seer in his family line somewhere. So when did he realize that she was a descendant of the gods or an actual god herself? It also means that Kieran isn't bonded to Casteel anymore and can see him as a threat, which is what starts to happen. And I was like, oh shit.
Like, oh no, Kieran, run for your life.
Right? But also, Casteel, you might need to run for your life because like all of the Wolven now it was really crazy. So, and that's kind of like what starts to happen. You sense this like animosity between the two of them that almost feels like not even like logical. And then until Poppy orders Kieran and all the Wolven not to attack. And then they like stop growling.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have Queen Elena. How are we saying her name?
Elena.
Okay, we're gonna call her
Eloana.
Eloana.
That's
we'll
it.
call her
Eloana.
Eloana. Okay. I can't wait for people to
Eliana?
tell us that.
I know.
We're gonna call her
Eliana.
we decide Alana.
Wait. Queen Eliana. I think it's Eliana. I forget. I listened to the audiobook as well, and now I can't remember how they pronounce it.
Well, now it's like in your head, right? Where you're like, crap, what was it again? Okay, we're gonna call her Queen Eliana.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay,
Eliana.
we're gonna call her Queen Eliana. I can't wait for everyone to tell me that we're wrong.
I know. Oh well.
And then she starts to share information about what's going on with Poppy and how she has to have at least a drop of the blood of the gods in her. Maybe more. A lot more. Because this woman does not tell the truth. Mm-hmm. I was not suspicious of her at this moment or throughout most of the book, and was real pissed when I realized some more things about her.
Yeah.
And then we also learned that the people who were throwing stones at her should have known who she was the moment the ether or the magic and her blood became visible, which is why one of them does say like, "Oh gods, like I'm sorry." In that last book, which at first I think Poppy thought it was because they were trying to hurt her, and I think it was they realized, oh shit, you're a descendant of a god.
Yeah,
this is not good.
We messed up.
Yes.
Yeah, which they did. They messed up real bad.
They messed up. Now they all dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all did. Should apologize sooner. Okay, and then we have Casteel wants Alistair seized for whatever role he and Beckett may have played in all of this, which he says is none. Liar, liar, pants on fire. And King Valen then orders Alistair to be kept somewhere safe until everything can be figured out, which I'm like, okay, but like also let's just like kill him and get over with.
Off with his head.
Off with his head, yes.
Right.
But Alistair isn't happy with those plans and tells the guards to protect the king and queen, which results in them shooting arrows in Jasper, Kieran, and Casteel that basically freeze them into like stone somehow. And you're like, oh, what? And that pisses Poppy off, of course, because at this point she thinks all three of them might be dead, which also we're like, what? You cannot kill Casteel. Like, what are you doing? I would
ever,
scream.
Let alone this
ever.
Early into a book, ever.
Yeah.
To be clear,
like,
he can't be killed ever.
Yeah, ever. I'm like, he's sacred. You can't do that to us. But she's just like, this would have been a good idea to then look at her magic marriage imprint, and be like, okay, he's okay. Then she would have realized he wasn't dead. But she didn't, and she tries to fight off the guards using both the dagger and her magic until she herself gets knocked out. Fucking Alistair, man. You're just like, ugh. So he's behind Poppy's capture all along with Commander Jansen and the not so warm welcome she receives when she arrives in Atlantia. So we're like, cool. We're not really shocked by this news. We've hated him since the previous book. He is now holding Poppy captive in a crypt with shackles made of these crazy bones of deities, like her ancestors supposedly. And they have magic within them, which means she can't break them. And if she pulls on them, then it will cut into her flesh and bone. And we're like, what? Oh my God.
Right?
On top of that, she is did we mention that she's surrounded by skeletons of like all the other people who were held like this for centuries until they eventually died? Like, you're just left there to rot. Like, you don't even get to like have a burial or anything. Like, you just stay. So creepy, right? Poppy just can't catch a break. But at least here she learns that Casteel, Jasper, and Kieran are alive, which is good news. But bad news, Commander Jansen is a changeling, and he killed Beckett and morphed into him to lure Poppy to the temple. Which you're like, okay, I'm glad Beckett wasn't a bad guy, but also, poor guy. Like,
Right.
you had to kill him. He's just a little baby. He's just a little puppy. Like,
Right?
oh,
It's not
sad
okay.
for Beckett. Not
I
okay for
know.
Beckett.
It did make me feel better that he wasn't a bad guy, though. I was like, oh, but then
Yeah,
also,
because I was so angry. I was like, oh my God, Beckett. Like, dude, come on.
I know.
But also I'm like, oh, I don't blame you anymore, but I'm really sad.
I'm really sad. So why is Alistair behind all of this? Because apparently Poppy is the biggest threat to Atlantia because of how all the gods behaved violently in the past. And this behavior was passed along to their children who became even more chaotic. Well, I mean, children are chaotic, let's be honest.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, they are.
And since that's what he believes Poppy is, he believes she's going to be like the children of the gods and chaotic. So according to Alistair, Poppy is a descendant of Hold on.
Nyctos.
Nyctos. Okay, because I was
You
about to
got
say
this.
something else. Nyctos. And carries the blood of King Malik inside her. And Alistair swears he swore an oath to protect Atlantia and her secrets, which is why he has to stop Poppy. And there's also, like, now a prophecy about her, too, and how she's going to bring destruction. And I'm just like,
What?
cool. What?
Yeah.
What? Then he finally confirms what we suspected all along. He was there the night her parents died to supposedly give them safe passage.
We
and
knew
her
it.
mother knew it, right? Like, we knew this.
We knew it.
And her mother was not a lady in wait. She was a handmaiden to the queen. Did not expect that. Basically a personal guard. And while he says he didn't kill her parents, he says he would have killed them and her if the Dark One wouldn't have done it, who was not Casteel.
Yeah. And we're like, so there's another dark one still?
Dark One?
Like,
Apparently. We're going to talk more about that. We have some ideas. But he can't kill her now because that would make her a martyr and cause a war with the Wolvens. Instead, he'll just give her to the Ascended because he's also been working with them. Fucking Alistair. Like,
seriously.
What?
Backstabbing Alistair.
Alistair.
Like, ugh.
and his
Damn.
plan is kind of brilliant, though. Like, if you think about it, even though I hate him, he's like the perfect, like, villain at this point. Because he's like, I'll give you to the Ascended. You will become enraged because you're given to the Ascended. And you're worried about Casteel and you'll do anything to get back to him. So then you'll use your ether and kill a bunch of them until they kill you. And then Casteel and the Wolven will want to seek revenge on the Ascended for taking Poppy. So then a war will break out and Atlantia will win. And I'm like, well, shit, that kind of makes sense.
This is a good strategy.
But you're
Except
also
for
an
the part-
asshole.
Yeah, it's like, this is a good strategy. It makes sense, but let's not do that, though, because we love Poppy and Casteel.
And we don't love you.
And we don't love you. No.
Mm-mm.
Exactly. So then when Commander Jansen tries to deliver Poppy to the Ascended, it does not go as planned because Casteel, Kieran, and the other Wolven show up to rescue her. Very good. Love that. But Kieran takes off her bone shackles and tells her that he's never seen Casteel this angry, which, yeah, I don't blame him. And he was going absolutely crazy looking for her. So after Kieran gets her shackles off, he wants her to sit out this battle, and which causes her to actually listen to Kieran for once and not fight until she sees Casteel like about to kill Jansen, and she wants the honor of doing that herself. Don't blame me for that, girlfriend. Like, you need your revenge. But unfortunately, he still had a bow somehow and shoots Poppy with it, which literally you're freaking out at this moment because you're like, I don't want her to die. Like, we're only in book 3. This is not okay. Like, first you fake us out with Casteel maybe dying, and now Poppy again. You're just like, my heart is going crazy. And it doesn't look good for Poppy. She's dying on the battlefield, and she's drinking Casteel's blood, but it isn't helping to save her. So he decides to then drink all of her blood and ascend her to try and save her life, even though it's going against his father's wishes. And Kieran is being a good best friend. He supports it, as he should. But everybody's like freaking out. Like, the last person to do that was like Malik with Isbeth. And they're like, that didn't turn out so well. So when Poppy comes to, she's definitely hungry. She's going crazy, but her eyes are still green. They're not black because she didn't like technically ascend in the same way. So she drinks Casteel's blood. She gets super turned on, which leads to them having sex in front of Kieran. And you're like, is this the joining? Like, is this the countdown until the joining eventually
That's
happens?
what I think.
Yeah, right? I'm like, it's got to happen, right? So, they're having a good time. And then Poppy comes to and realizes that she's with Casteel. And then they have sex again. So she's like, oh, yeah, okay, great. But Kieran at least isn't present for this one. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go this way, guys. See you later. But we also finally then get to hear Poppy tell Casteel that she loves him, which you're like, oh, so sweet, about time. Which honestly surprises him because he already knew, like, you care for me, but like wasn't sure if she could ever really love him after everything that happened, all the lies and just everything. And it literally brings him to tears. Like, he's actually like found someone to love him. And he tells her again that he loves her. And it's just like a super beautiful, like heartwarming moment that, like, if you don't think about how she was attacked by his people and like almost given to the Ascendant again and then almost died, you're like, it'd be really great. But
really great.
But sometimes you have to have those contrasting moments,
Right. Well, and I was just like, when he said he was gonna, I realized he was gonna ascend her. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? If you make her a vampire, she is gonna come at you.
Right.
So pissed.
So pissed off. Which rightfully so.
Rightfully so. But I was just like, it's like the first couple chapters, all this happens. I'm like, this is what usually happens in the last 100 pages of a book. What is going to happen in this book?
Right? Yeah. It's like you're looking at it and you're like, we're only here? Like, what in the world is going to happen?
You've almost killed both of them? I don't understand.
I'm like, buckle yourself up because this is going to be a crazy ride.
It's going to be a crazy ride. So after Casteel and Poppy are done with their alone naked time, Kieran joins them again, not for the three of them to get naked, but to talk about what happened.
Damn it.
And what they've learned. So quick rundown. No one else has heard of this prophecy that Alistair told Poppy about because they apparently don't have prophecies in Atlantia. Mm-hmm. Poppy isn't sure how she used her ether to kill people in the temple. She just knew what to do. Sure.
Second nature.
She's also unsure if she ever wants to do it again. But Casteel tells her, like, you shouldn't hesitate if you can't defend yourself. But she's very worried, I think, because Alistair said she was going to become a monster. She's worried about becoming that with her ether. So she shares how Alistair told them that she was too dangerous and a threat to Atlantia. Apparently now there isn't a drop of mortal blood in Poppy because Casteel drained all of her blood and then gave her his when he was trying to save her life.
But now we know she was never mortal. So it's like, what happens to Casteel now? That he drank all of her god blood. Like, right?
So, right? So, we think there's something going on here.
Something's happening.
She also doesn't smell mortal anymore. Or apparently smell like death kind of anymore. She smells like power. Thank you, Kieran, for that helpful tidbit.
Mm-hmm. At least he was nicer this way.
You smell like power now.
Power.
I'm like, that's super, super helpful.
But I'm so curious, if she was never actually mortal, how did she smell mortal? Like, how did that happen? How did this?
I don't know.
There's so many questions here.
There's so many questions, right? And we don't really find the answer to that in this book, I don't feel like.
Yeah.
No one knows if she'll continue to need blood or not. No, they're not sure if she's immortal or not now.
Yeah, they don't know.
Casteel compelled Alistair to share what he knew, but he wasn't able to get many more names out of him because either Alistair had no idea or their identities were too well concealed, which I think it's the latter. I think the more we learn about the unseen, as I think it was meant for few people to know who is involved for protection.
Yeah.
Poppy also shares that Alistair is working with the Ascendant and his plans for handing her over and how he was there the night she was attacked as a child. We learn that Alistair and Casteel's father both want retribution on the Ascendant and they want war. Great. At this point, I'm like, I don't trust King Valen. And then Alistair is still alive, so Poppy can kill him if she'd like. So one of the things I thought was like, Casteel is so great with gifts, whether it's orgasms or the ability to kill people who have wronged her. He's always giving. Always.
Yes. He's a giver.
Plus, Casteel's father is being watched over by some of Casteel's crew until they figure out what happened with trying to ascend Poppy, since he wasn't supportive of that decision and basically alluded to, if she is a vampire, I'm going to kill her.
Yeah, which, like, good luck with the whole touch her and die thing, because Casteel will literally kill his own father.
And not think twice about it.
Not think twice.
So,
yeah. And then when they're alone again, Poppy tells Casteel about potentially being a descendant from Nyktos and Malek, which she worries will push him away. But he says it doesn't bother him at all, because of course not. And he doesn't think his mother will hold anything against Poppy because she's related to her former husband, which in my mind I had to be like, okay, wait, are they related in somehow? Like I was like, okay, you're with this one, you're with that one, and this and this. Like for half a second I was worried we were gonna find out that like Casteel was like her brother in some weird way. That I was like, no.
Oh,
Or like cousins, and I was like, oh God, please say it isn't so. But we're in the clear. We're good. My math checked out. But then it just still got complicated later where I was like, wait, whose child? What? You know?
see, this is
So
where a map would be helpful or a cheat sheet.
we need a cheat sheet, yeah. So it's kind of like so his mother may not necessarily hold that against Poppy, but she's still not very welcoming, and she keeps a lot of secrets herself. So the jury is still out really on how we feel about her. Not really loving her character at the end of this book either. And let's just talk for a minute really quick about how Casteel says he doesn't really care how his mother feels about Poppy, because he just cares about Poppy. So take notes, people. Your spouse should come first before your parents, always. Like you are a team. Now, it's time to head back to Atlantia, and they notice that all of the golden trees now have become blood trees, which initially you think, that's a bad thing, right? Because we heard about them before. We learn later in this book that they're actually an indication that a god is back ruling. So you're like, okay, cool. So during this journey, Poppy unfortunately has a nightmare. And Delano mind talks to her, telling her to wake up. And this is when she starts to realize that she can see an imprint on each Wolven, which eventually allows her to communicate with them directly via their minds. So she's connected to all of them. So cool. So I'm like, is she part Wolven? I don't know. She can talk to them all. She's connected. But again, she's a descendant of the gods. Maybe that has something to do with it. So once they arrive at the Temple of Sion, where Alistair and Valen are being kept, everyone notices that Poppy's eyes have a silvery light through them. So when she helps to ease Quentin's pain about Beckett's death, similar to the eyes of the woman Poppy saw in a vision of the chamber earlier. We'll talk more about that when we get to theories, but we have an idea of who this might be. And then Valen is shocked to learn that Poppy hasn't ascended, because he's like, I saw you dying and I know what Casteel did. So he's like, you got to be ascended. And this is when we get one of the best Casteel lines in the entire book, if not the entire series so far. If you think what I did was a shock, then you need to understand that I will do anything and everything for my wife. No risk is too great, nor is anything too sacred, because she is my everything. There is nothing greater than her, and I do mean nothing. Yes.
Right?
Like, Casteel, you have my heart and soul. You bewitched me body and soul. Like, oh. And also, like, that's also when we realize that Valen might know more about what's going on with Poppy than he lets on, but refuses to talk about it with his wife present. And you're like, okay, fine. But initially we're like, okay, kudos to you for sticking up for your wife. But now I kind of wonder, is this a ploy for them to get their story straight about how they continue to cover their numerous lies that Eliana told for decades about what happened with Malik and Isbeth? Because now we're assuming Valen knows something is up. And then, of course, Poppy gets her revenge and kills Alistair. Finally. Like, bye-bye, motherfucker.
So glad you did.
Mm-hmm. He's
so
gone.
glad.
Honestly, it reminded me of when Violet killed, was that
Barish.
one guy? Barish, yeah. I'm like, good.
You needed
Even though
it.
technically, like, Dane and him were there too.
Dane kind of, but also.
Yeah. But also, it's like, she needed that revenge.
Yes, I agree.
Good for you, Poppy.
So next up is Jasper's home, which is kind of like a second home to Casteel, because he apparently has his own room there. And hundreds of Wolven basically bow to Poppy since she's their queen. Did we mention that they're basically all naked when this happens? Because what?
Oh my god. What?
Like, okay. Apparently the Wolven find clothing to be cumbersome. More on that later, because we knew that, like, when they shift, they sometimes can lose their clothing, but apparently, like, they just have no problems being naked all the time and doing other things that we'll talk about soon.
They're basically a nudist colony.
Yes, of Wolven.
Yeah.
All natural.
All natural.
So, Then we get to Poppy's first shower. So what's funny is, remember, like,
Oh,
I think it was like the previous book where she was like, didn't believe there was running water or that it was hot. Well, now she has to
yeah.
experience it.
Oh,
And
she experiences
she
it.
experiences it because it is not like a normal shower, people, right? It is, right? Because Casteel goes down on her in the shower. So that's a great first shower. We'll talk about that.
So
That is
wonderful.
so wonderful. That is also the first time that Casteel mentions that he doesn't lose control, which is something that keeps coming up later too,
Yes.
where he's like, I'm still in control. I haven't lost control. And I'm like, what does that mean, Casteel? Will there be a time when you lose control? Because
Yeah.
holy
I
shit,
want
is
to
it going to
see
be hotter
that.
than some of this book? Because please, I'm dying here. What does
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
mean?
What does
So,
it mean? Please lose control right now.
please lose
I'm
control,
losing control.
right? I'm losing control about you talking about losing control.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Spritz, spritz, spritz.
So once again, proving that orgasms help you sleep. Poppy sleeps for 24
Mhm.
hours.
Mhm.
And her favorite book and ours is brought up again. So we know this book is going to be more important in the series because it keeps being mentioned. Not just
Mhm.
for like this potential joining event that you and I are both convinced is going to happen at some point,
Yeah.
which seems more and more likely since the book
Yes.
talks about a foursome. But that's interrupted when Kieran comes in to tell Casteel that his father wants to speak with him.
His
So
dad is such a buzzkill.
he is a buzzkill, right? Like, I'm like, we're talking about the book. I'm
Yeah.
foursomes.
Yeah.
We need to like. So Casteel goes to talk to Daddy, and he tells Kieran to go guard Poppy. During this time, Kieran and Poppy realize that they can communicate telepathically, and they test it out, which I think both like scares the shit out of each of them,
Yeah.
but it's also kind of cool. So that starts to raise the question of like how she has so much ether, and they don't know. Which is like, I think, like kind of another breadcrumb, like, hey, you may not be a deity, you might actually be a god.
Yes.
But at the time, no one's like assuming that,
Yeah. No one thinks it's possible.
except you and I.
Except, yeah, we're like, oh, she's a god. I know. But then, of course, things have to get crazy. Chaos ensues when masked men show up at Jasper's house to attack Poppy, further proving that what Alistair said about it not ending with him is true. And somehow they're tied to the attack on her family when she was a child because one of them mentions how she never should have survived that night in Lockswood. What?
What?
Like, there's so many like mysteries here. Like, what are you talking about? So cryptic. And then fighting ensues with these creatures that don't have faces. What? Ew. Like, just like don't have like eyes, nose. And Poppy's like, how are you breathing? Like, you're not alive. But like, they're known as Gurms.
Gurm. I think Gurms.
Gurm. Yeah, Gyrms, Gurms. Which you're like, ugh. But it turns out this group is called the Unseen, which is an ancient brotherhood initially created by the deities to serve as a network of spies and soldiers and crush any rebellions before they've even started. And all of their identities are hidden. And also they're just like creepy. And however, they eventually turn on the deities that made them because they actually swore an oath to the crown and the kingdom, not the heads those crowns sat upon. So the Unseen were disbanded a long, long time ago. At least that's what everybody thought. For thousands of years, no one has seen them since. So it's a huge shock that they finally show up.
What's interesting about this Unseen, for those people who have watched Scandal and B613, like that's what it reminded me of. And I was like, oh, so you're like for the country and like the greater good, but not whoever is ruling. And I'm like, okay, these unseen people, but you're using these germs, which are like dead things to do your dirty work.
Yeah, like weird, like zombie things that can fight and ugh.
At least zombies
yuck.
have faces, right?
I know. That's like even more disturbing that like just like these little like black slits. Bleh. No, thank you. And they're super yucky when you kill them because like when you kill them, this like gooey purple black stuff that smells really bad comes out and like it like gets on your clothes and you're like, ugh. So they have to clean all this up and then we get nicely enough when you clean up, you have to clean up, right? So we get another steamy scene between Poppy and Casteel where he rewards her for killing so many of these ewy, yucky things. So you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad, I guess. He's like, oh, you're dirty here. Let me clean you there. And you're like, okay. Yay! But still yuck. But then Poppy, Casteel, Kieran, and Jasper have a conversation about the Germs. I'm gonna have
We're gonna
so
call
much
them
trouble
germs.
saying this. Germ, okay. And what they know. So basically, they're not alive and they never were in the first place. Ew. They are created from dirt and magic and used to do the bidding of whomever summoned them. And they can only be killed with puncture wounds, supposedly, from like a certain thing. So we learn a little bit now about this place called the Elysium, which is the land of the gods and the Shadowlands, which is where the abyss is located and how the veil is accessed. And you can only make these creatures from the dirt from that area. So someone has to go there, have that dirt, and they're like, does someone just have like a bucket of this stuff just like sitting around? Like, where do these creatures come from? Because like you can't go over there unless you're a god. So another foreshadowing we see right here is that at least one of these areas later in the book, we're probably going to go there. It makes us wonder if we're going to see the other one in the future. And this is also when we learn that Nyktos has a consort and that they had children the old-fashioned way. Which is more foreshadowing on this later in the book. You're like, okay, all right, let's see what happens. But
Well,
yeah,
it's interesting. Like when I first read it, I was like, oh, well, that's weird that they said like the old-fashioned way. Like I guess he could have just created them.
yeah,
But
he's
then I'm
the
just
life, yeah.
But
Like
then I was
boom,
just
child.
like, boom, child, right? And I'm like,
Yeah,
but who doesn't want to do it the old-fashioned way?
that's pretty
Even
fun.
gods apparently.
Yeah,
But it was funny because like when I was reading through it again, I was like, there are so many little breadcrumbs that like at first you're just like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. Now I'm like, God damn it, you told me.
they told me right here the old-fashioned way. Babies.
These well, they even like specifically mentioned children. Like, and they
Yes,
use the word children multiple times when talking
not
about Nyktos,
child.
not child. And I didn't
Yeah.
pick up on that at first. And then I was
Mm-mm.
like, oh, damn it. But the biggest
But like,
surprise,
yeah.
Miss Willa is an Atlantean and she's alive. Did not see that coming at all. Not at
What?
all. What?
No. What?
So many questions for this woman.
Oh my gosh. And like the biggest grin on Casteel's face when they heard that, like Miss Wilhelmina, and they're like, the same? And Casteel's just like bothering. He's like, oh, we're familiar with her work. And
Her.
Poppy's like, no, I don't know her. What are you talking about? Stop it.
Stop it. Shut your mouth. Like I can
Shut
just
up,
like
shut up, shut up.
like if kicking him under the table is like what how I would shut up.
Shut up, shut up, shut up,
Stop
shut up,
talking.
shut up. Oh my God. Love it.
Well, it turns out she's a channeling.
Changeling.
Holy crap. And one
Taurus.
of Atlantea's elders. She's also about 2,000 years old. So I mean, she's gotten around clearly.
Oh yeah, yeah. No
Followed
wonder
by
she
us.
wrote a book.
No wonder she wrote a book. But I'm also
Yeah.
like, I have lots of questions for this woman. Second bomb, the tunnels that Kieran, Casteel, and Malik played in as a kid are apparently the tunnels that lead to the Elysium. Definitely not a coincidence. I'm just like, wait, what? Because I was like, why are they talking about these tunnels so much in previous books? I was like, it has to mean
Yeah.
something. And then I was like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't wander farther down those tunnels because you would have died.
Yeah. Very good. Very, very good. Oh God.
But now it's time to address like kind of like one of the elephants in the room, which is Poppy's claim to the throne and what she wants to do about it. So, because Casteel is definitely for a team player, wants to make decisions together. He tells Poppy it's your choice on whether or not you want to take the throne, but word is going to start to spread quickly about you. Like this is not like you get to sit around and wait for a long time to make a decision. And if she decides not to take the throne, they'll need to leave Atlantia because the woman will treat her as the queen even if she doesn't wear the crown, and others will follow suit, and it's going to cause massive division. And I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like she really has no.
She'll be a threat if she doesn't take it.
If she doesn't take it. And I'm also like, he'll follow her anywhere. So it really is her decision, which is really sweet. And then he mentions multiple times that he will do anything to ensure Poppy's happiness, including setting his own kingdom on fire. And I'm like, what? Okay. Which feels like another breadcrumb for like the ultimate sacrifice he makes in the book at the end of the book to save her. But then it also makes me question, are we going to set Atlantia on fire at some point?
I hope not.
I hope not. But See, now I question everything that's said to us.
I question
right?
everything.
I question it all.
Yes.
And because Poppy does say later in the book that she'll burn down everything.
There's a lot of burning.
There's a lot of burning that is threatened in this book.
A lot of fire.
But since we have not been shocked enough so far, another one. Poppy can bring people back from the dead. Yep, no big deal. Just, there's an injured child who is pretty much dead. Not mostly dead, pretty dead.
Very, very much dead.
Very dead.
Which this part was so hard for me to read.
It was.
Like having like a little girl like the same age as this one, I was just like picturing my own child. And I was like, oh my God, like the mother like sobbing.
Well, and then the guy who was driving like the
like wagon
or whatever, right? And he's like, I didn't see it. Like, and he's sobbing, and I'm just like, it was a truly and horrible accident.
It was terrible.
And you know, when Poppy gets there and she's like gonna try and heal her, I'm just
hoping. I'm like, please, please, Poppy. Hoping. I hope you heal her. It's like a make or break moment. I'm like, if she heals her, like that's amazing. Like it's gonna be great. And if she doesn't, like shit's gonna go down.
Yes, and people are gonna like turn on her, and they already don't like her there, but she's able to heal her, and that's what she thinks.
Thank God.
Until Casteel's like, well, you know that girl was dead.
Yeah.
And Poppy's like, no. He's like, she was dead.
Yeah, she was gone.
Poppy brought her back.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, that shocks everyone around her, and word starts to spread fast about it. And then the child says that she saw a lady who told her, I always had the power in me. And that's like a really important statement that becomes very repeated throughout this book for Poppy later on. And it's also where, like, I was like, shit, we might be right. Poppy might be an actual god.
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly, I'm like, you're bringing somebody back from the dead. You can kill all these people on, like, a blink. Like,
you might be a god.
You might be a god,
if.
Yeah, you think you're a god. You may be a god if you can kill people and bring them back from the dead.
Correct. You can kill people by just like thinking it.
Yeah.
And then bring them back from the dead by just touching them.
Yeah.
And because only weird shit turns Casteel on, or basically everything turns Casteel on. Which leads to him fucking her in a garden.
Like, and she's like, there could be people around. And he's like, I don't care. And you're like, but then afterwards he looks around and goes, this is a nice garden.
Well, and it's funny because I'm like, are you part wolf and Casteel? Because you don't have any problems, like, having sex in public. And neither do the Wolven, we learn later. So,
So then afterwards, Poppy and Casteel get to explore the city, and they get to kind of have a little bit like a normal day as a couple, which they certainly deserve. Like, they're holding hands, they're like going to museums, and then while they're at a museum, we get more information, and important breadcrumbs as well, about Nyktos and his consort, because there happens to be a drawing of Nyktos and two felines, which supposedly represented his two children with the consort. So Poppy mentions seeing a cave cat that looked similar caged up at the castle with the queen when she was younger, which Casteel and Karen are like, that's impossible. They've been gone for hundreds of thousands of years. Turns out it is not impossible because one of those happens to be her dear old dad. Dun, dun, dun. Like, what? What? Oh my God.
I also, like, every time Kieran and Casteel say that's impossible, I'm like, wait. It's going to happen.
Anything they think is impossible is actually possible.
Correct. All those people are dead and those bloodlines are dead. Nope.
It's possible. It's possible. And honestly, so, okay. When we got to this cave cat part, I was like, she's mentioned a couple of times how Casteel reminds her of a cave cat. And I'm like, please tell me they're not related. Please tell me they're not related. Like, again, I was just like, no. Like, don't let him actually be part cave cat and she is too. And there's just like a weird, I don't know.
That would be horrible. Just as bad as in book one, we were like, is it possible that Casteel had an affair with her mom?
Right? Yeah, we're like, no. Please no. Please don't let them be related. But it is cool to find out, basically, that the cave cat thing is real. And as we later find out, like, that is her dad. Like, oh. So we'll get to that, of course. But now let's talk about this Wolven wedding. And we did not expect this, honestly. But it is a free-for-all, people having sex everywhere in the open, one big giant beach orgy, basically. Um, and this feels more, again, like a foreshadowing of a potential joining in a future book, especially because Poppy is really intrigued in what is going on between Lyra and Kieran. Like, full on, just like enamored and watching, which turns Casteel on, shocker. And
Turns
because he's
Poppy
like
on.
turns Poppy on too, yeah, and because they're basically just like watching porn together, and Poppy's like, I want to give this a try, and she ends up giving Casteel her first ever blowjob, and he was very excited about that. Let's just say he was pleased. He was pleased, and he's like, you could do anything you want to me. He's like, I just want you, and like woohoo. Um, and so then Poppy finally gets to meet Kieran's mom, Kira. And it's weird to anyone else that this has taken us like so long to meet them, even though Poppy was staying at her house. It's like, okay, like where have you been this whole time? What have you been doing? A little bit suspicious, honestly. Probably nothing, but these days you can't trust anyone in a romantasy book. So just saying. But also like Kira is, basically like a second mom to Casteel, which she's really sweet, and she's definitely more warm and welcoming to Poppy than Casteel's mom has been so far. And, she's also like super pregnant. So you're like, are you going to be like, I just am assuming the worst in everything now that I'm like, is this baby going to be okay? Like, are you going to be
Oh, I
okay?
didn't even think that now. Oh no.
I'm just like, I don't want anyone to get hurt. Like, but all of our trigger warnings, like, no one is safe.
No one is safe.
Oh man.
Like
But
she has tried to kill the majority of the main characters and like a third of the way into the book. So
yeah, so I'm just like, oh God, no. And like the last pregnant person we saw, Magda, didn't make it.
Oh God, she died too.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, oh no.
And we know children died in the last book.
Yeah. It's like no one's safe.
Okay. No one's safe. Well,
Let's move ahead. Uh-huh.
Next up, it's time to meet with Casteel's parents, and we see a discussion between Casteel, Poppy, and Kieran about the royal crest and how the sword and arrow are not equal because when Malik was king, he made the sword more prominent than the arrow. And Poppy... Typical, right? And Poppy says, well, if I become queen, they would both be equals, which comes to fruition later in the book. But it also makes us wonder, like, is there more importance to that? Because the last time they were both equals, two deities sat on the thrones. Yeah. Kieran says, like, the last time that happened. So I'm like, there is something else going on because he drank all of her blood. Right?
He got ascended.
Did he get ascended? We don't know. But something is going... I just think it's going to mean something more than just changing some banners. So, when Poppy officially meets Queen Eliana. Queenie. She has a visible reaction to Poppy, which she says is related to her not looking like a vampire after Casteel ascended her. Or is it because she knows this happened before with Malik and Isbeth? Because that woman is a liar. We don't know it at this point, but I like judged every interaction like on my second reread of like what she did and what she said. It was like,
yeah, it's like, oh, you lying son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. You know stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you are not forthcoming.
Mm-mm.
Well, and she's not like warm or welcoming in this exchange, but like Poppy starts to stand up for herself, and I think you see that a lot more in this book, and doesn't take any of her bullshit. And then Casteel continues to have her back. Now, eventually, Eliana apologizes and shares more about the past. So we learn a couple of things. She says Malik has to be Poppy's father. Okay. The Queen and King knew what happened to Poppy and her family in Lockswood, but supposedly learned about it after the fact. But I'm like, but they would have supported it if they knew ahead of time. I'm like, how is that supposed to make with you're okay with
the whole
it?
Family? Yeah, it's like you're okay with a family being slaughtered and like all these people being killed on purpose in Lockswood. Like, that's not okay.
Eliana hunted Malik down and entombed him in the Blood Forest with bone chains and believes he would have been dead by the time Poppy was born. So someone must have broke him out for him to be Poppy's father. Okay. The trees of Eos changing from gold to blood reflects that a deity is now in line for the throne and are not a bad omen at all. That was really helpful because I was like, I don't think blood trees are good.
Yeah, no. I mean, blood
Blood trees.
tree. Like, ugh.
Apparently it is good. Valen says Poppy was never truly mortal. But like, if that's the case, then how did she almost die before Casteel ascended her? Is it because it hit her heart? Because you
Yeah.
can kill a god.
Yeah.
So
it's confusing.
it's very confusing. We have lots of questions. Atlanteans don't have prophecies, so that is like confirmed. Or at least regular Atlanteans don't because the unseen do. And
Yeah.
they're not sure if deities need blood. Super helpful. Super helpful.
Yeah. No. So then Eliana says she wants to take a walk with Poppy. And Poppy's like, all right, like I can handle you, I guess. Like, let's see what you got. And oh boy, does she drop some bombs of her own. Again. So we learned that Queen Ileana is the queen of blood and ash. So remember, the vampire queen. She's technically the queen of blood and ash, referencing the power of blood and what remains after destruction. But they stopped using it centuries ago after the dissenters and Atlanteans started using similar words to kind of like mock them in a way. So it's just kind of like, that's a funny little like twist on it, like because they say, you know, like from blood and ash, and it's like to the queen of blood and ash, and she's like, how dare you? So she just doesn't want to like fall into that line of talk, and she's like, whatever. And then supposedly she says Malik wasn't a bad man, but of course like he was unfaithful, but he was just a man who became lost. And so that kind of makes Poppy feel a little bit better, knowing that like supposedly her father was not this terrible monster of a man that she had like assumed, just that he was, you know, very promiscuous, which, I mean, okay, like I guess like if you're gonna be one bad thing, like that's better. I don't know, maybe not.
Maybe not.
But yeah, I'm like, I don't know. But Malik wanted the throne, and he wanted his vampire mistress, Isbeth, to, you know, be his queen. But that was apparently the problem Eliana had with him. And she's like, no, you are not going to make your mistress the queen. That's not going to happen. And basically, she sees what Casteel did with Poppy as different. So that kind of gives hope there that she might support them, you know. And Poppy hopes that Ian is still as she remembers, but if he's not like that anymore, then she says she will kill him. And Eliana at first is like, I see your loyalty in that, but I also like appreciate that like you will do what's right. But she does worry for herself that if Malik is still alive, then it would almost be better if he was dead, given the state he must be in, which I think kind of again gives us like breadcrumbs to the future of like what happens like to people in that state. So Poppy then shares the ultimatum that her and Casteel plan to give to the Blood Crown to basically try and like avoid war and everything like that. And Eliana shares that Valen and most of the elders want to go to war with the Ascended, and that they've already begun training their armies to prepare for war. So now, technically, only the king and queen, or whoever is king and queen, can stop them. Which leads to Eliana to say that she thinks Poppy and Casteel are what's best for Atlantia. And honestly, only they can stop this war now from happening because they've already set everything in place. But Poppy probably only has a few days to decide, since the news of her bringing the girl back to life has now started to spread, and everybody's going to want to know what's going to happen henceforth. Lots of craziness in that conversation, in that long walk. But, you know, if that's not enough for Poppy to deal with, it turns out her brother Ian has arrived at Spessa's end with a message from the Blood Crown. But he will only speak to his sister. And it definitely appears like he's ascended. But, you know, Poppy holds out hope that maybe the Ian she knew is still in there. And so, of course, Poppy, Casteel, Kieran, and everybody else are going to go straight to Spessa's end to do the meeting, which, of course, other people are like, it's a trap, you shouldn't go. But Poppy's like, it's my brother, I don't care, I'm going. And Casteel's like, I'm right behind you. Yeah.
So once they get there, Casteel talks to Poppy about being careful with what she says to her brother and how she may react if nothing of the Ian she knew remains, right? He's worried that like her ether may start to do things because the times where she's gotten mad before, like the Wolven notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Since fighting always seems to turn Casteel on, they end up having a more extremely hot sex.
Of course. Yes.
The
We got a
weirdest
four-pepper
things.
book here.
We do. That man gets turned on by legitimately everything Poppy does.
She could blow her nose and he'd be like, blow me. Or,
right?
like just like crazy. Like,
It feels
what?
that way.
Yeah.
But it's finally time for us to meet Ian, which I'm excited because I feel like we've talked about him a lot. We haven't seen him until this book. And it's at night because obviously he's ascended and I've learned that vampires can only come out at night. We're working on that vampire knowledge,
Yeah.
which Poppy like knew he was ascended. She's known for years that he's been ascended, but it was still like devastating for her to like see it, I think.
Yeah. It was confirmed.
It was confirmed, right?
Yeah.
When she looked at his eyes. And Ian plays like the part initially of this like typical ascended, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like accusing Casteel of kidnapping her, telling like he's told you lies, Poppy. Tanya and Malik are safe, and the true queen has requested a meeting with you and Casteel in a fortnight, which is 14 days. Thank you, Taylor Swift, because wouldn't have known that before Torture Poets Department.
Fortnight. Yes.
Fortnight.
Yeah.
Like I would have had to Google that.
Yeah, you're like.
Oh, and they also know about the Atlantean armies and are hoping this upcoming meeting will prevent unnecessary bloodshed. And I was like, wait, what? How do you know all this?
Damn Alistair.
Damn Alistair.
I swear, it's probably him.
Fucking Alistair. And then he
haunting
also
us from the dead.
He is haunting us from the dead. Well, he continues to haunt us throughout this entire book, it feels like.
Yeah.
Ian also shares that Atlantia will not be able to defeat what the queen has created, these revenants. And I was like, wait, what? But before he goes, he's like, he wants to give Poppy a hug, and she allows it. And he whispers to her, I know the truth. Wake Nyktos. Only his guards can stop the blood crown. And I was like, excuse me, what the fuck?
What?
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 What are revenants? Why would I wake a sleeping god? You're an ascended. Why are you telling me this? And I'm like, how are you ascended, but also still partly old Ian?
Yeah.
Is that possible for a vampire?
Yeah, it's like, are you actually Ian? Or are you playing the part? Are you playing both sides here?
That's what I was just like, I have so many questions and I know nothing about vampires. So I'm like, is this possible? Like, what is going on?
I think it's possible. Because then Poppy was like, he purposefully like pulled away from his guards so that they couldn't hear what he had to say. Like, he was playing the part in front of everybody, but during the hug strategically was like, it's still me. And like, I'm your brother. I love you. I want to help you like do this thing. But she believes him, of course.
She believes him, right? And everyone else has a lot of questions, because just like I do.
Yeah, so many questions. Yeah.
Right? Jasper's like, well, I don't trust Ian.
Yeah, of course.
Kieran's like, I think it means that like Ian knows your real heritage, which means the blood crown knows that.
Ooh,
no,
yeah.
Right? So that's not great. No one knows what the fuck a revenant is. No one.
Yeah. No.
Alistair's likely the reason the Ascended know about the Atlantean armies. Great. Super great. You're dead, and your gifts keep on being given.
Keep on giving.
Keep on giving.
Oh, gosh. So bad. And then once Casteel and Poppy are alone, he shares that he believes Ian might still be in there. We're like, okay, cool, great, thank you. And like, maybe that could be the case for the other Ascended too. And then they finally talk about the white elephant in the room. Maybe we should call it the blood elephant in the room.
Blood elephant.
Yeah. Of becoming king and queen. And Poppy says she does want to take the crown. That was one of like his mom's things with Poppy. She's like, I want you to take the crown if you actually love the Atlantean people. Like, do it for the people. So Poppy's like, I want to take the crown, but for other reasons, of course. And her plan then is to head to the capital in the morning. And that night, Poppy has another nightmare of the night that her family was attacked, and definitely remembers seeing another man there that was dressed as the Dark One. So here's a couple of key items from this nightmare. Number 1, Poppy's mom pulls out something black as night and moves very fast. Her mom then asks the man, how could you do this? And he replies, I'm sorry, which indicates he somehow likely betrayed her. This would mean that her mother knew who this man was and like what he was coming to do. Sketchy. And then there are these gray-skinned creatures with sunken bodies and red-smeared mouths, which sounds a lot like the Gurms. Ew. And bodies are snapping in Poppy's direction. Ugh. Mouths are dropping open and like shrill howls are ripping through the air. So is it possible that Poppy did this with her ether and like just didn't realize it, like back as a child? Maybe. And then her mom then thrusts this black spike thing into the Shadow Man's chest. claws are then scratching at Poppy's skin, and she's feeling like it's burning. And it's just like an insane nightmare. And like we learned so much from this. But again, we're still like trying to piece it all together. Like, okay, like did she use her ether? Are these creatures the Gurms? What is this shadowy black stuff? Like, is that from Elysium? Like,
is this a shadow daddy, but like a not good shadow daddy?
Right? Is this a bad shadow daddy? And,
yeah.
Ooh,
and not like a bad shadow daddy that we would like. Like a real bad shadow daddy.
Like a Voldemort shadow daddy. Oh. Bad one. I kind of imagine that's what these like Gurm things looked like, almost Voldemort-ish, except less eyeballs and more bleh. Anyway, so then we have that nightmare. Bad. And now we have our journey to Evamon. Let's break it down here. So Kieran likes Lyra and thinks she's fun and a good person. You're like, okay. And he knows that Poppy is watching them on the beach, which intrigues him. Again, we are very much convinced the joining is going to happen at some point because there's just too much kind of sexual tension in a way going on between Casteel, Kieran, and Poppy. But we do learn a little bit about Kieran's past love, which is really sad. Her name was Alacia. She died from a wasting disease. So basically it's like this random like disease that's genetic that like you don't even know you have it until like you show signs. And then as soon as you show signs of it, you die like 2 days later. But he fell in love with her anyway, knowing that he could lose her because he says, quote, "The heart doesn't care how long you may have with someone. It just cares that you have the person for as long as you can." Kieran.
Just like he's like a softie in there. I didn't really expect that.
Yeah. And it's like that's such a sweet line, you know?
It is. But I was like, it better not be foreshadowing for keeping Poppy and Casteel apart because I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
So pissed. I know. And then Poppy gets very brave and wants to ride on her own horse into the capital. She's like, "I don't want Seti. I want my own horse now." Which you're like, okay, good for you. And we get to see that happen. And she wants to then have a ball to celebrate her coronation afterwards. So she's like, what happens with everything going on? And she's like, let's save for the big parties for after we've won the war. You know, like let's focus on the big thing here, which I'm like, that's right. That's what a good leader does. But that doesn't really go as planned because here comes the Unseen and the Gurms attacking the group. And it doesn't appear that they want to take Poppy alive. They want to kill her. And there are a lot of them. So Poppy then is like, let me unleash my ether here and kill all of you. Great. A big shocker here. That death and destruction turns Casteel on. Of course, he's like, God damn, I love it when you kill everyone. You're like, that's pretty much Casteel. And this attack likely means that someone told the Unseen that they were coming and like how they were going. So someone ratted them out. They have a mole. And we don't figure out who this might be in the book. But again, like we have an idea that like there is someone else besides like Alistair, obviously. Like someone is crossing wires here. Not good.
Yep. So once they arrive in the capital, they meet with the queen and king and tell them Poppy's ready to claim the throne and the kingdom. And initially King Valen's like, what will happen? Like, I just remember like, I thought of him as like being like the asshole, like, what will happen if we contest your claim? And she's like, you can't.
Go right ahead if you want.
Right, go ahead.
I'll fight you.
Exactly. And then the queen's like, how did you come to this decision? And Poppy's like, Poppy, I just love this because she's like, none of your damn business.
Yeah.
Like, I have my own reasons.
Yeah.
I don't have to share
I know
them.
you're trying to test me, but
no.
I'm not taking the test. No.
I'm like, good for you.
Thank you next.
Thank you next. Then they get crowned, which happens like all real fast, right? They're like,
so fast.
They're like, so we'll crown you, but first, Lord Gregory has concerns he would like to share. And I'm like, oh, were you in cahoots with Alistair? Probably. After he shares his concerns, they basically, the queen and king, relinquish their crowns, and they crown Poppy and Casteel as queen and king. And it's just like over in a couple of minutes. And
which is very similar to like the wedding too.
Yes.
Just like super fast, like boom, 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 here's you go, done. And you're
done.
Like, oh.
Okay.
That's efficient.
It is efficient.
Great.
So her first act as queen is to make a change to the royal crest. So I'm like, once again, this has to mean something. And she wants to ensure the heir and sword are crossed over equally. And their palace manager, Rose, ensures she'll get taken care of. And it has to mean something. Otherwise, like, why would that be her first act as queen? Why would it be brought up again?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't find out in this book, but I feel like something is coming. Poppy also has to get used to people following her around because she has like the Wolven now. She has Hissa, who is kind of like the head of the royal guard, and other royal guard members. Plus, like the palace is huge, and her living quarters are the entire East Wing. She was like, "You mean in the East Wing?" They're like, "No, the East Wing," and she was like,
"Whole place."
Okay, sure. But then we have to meet with the Council of the Elders. But before that meeting can happen, Poppy runs into the woman she met at the Red Pearl. And I was, because we talked about this last book, we felt like we need to know who she was. Like, she was important.
Mm-hmm.
It's Willa. Are you fucking kidding me?
My jaw dropped so much when she was like, you must meet Miss, like, Wilhelmina. And it's like, the Red Pearl lady. What?
I was just like, I like lost my shit. I did
not see that coming.
I did not think she was, like, I was shocked that she was still alive. I did not even think that she could be the lady that was at the Red Pearl. I may have like gasped out loud and was like, holy shit, when I read this. Like, yes. I knew
100%.
Right? Like, I was just like, I knew Willa was going to play an important role, but like, I did not expect her to be the woman from the Red Pearl, still be alive, or be on the Council of Elders. And then
now I'm curious, what else were you doing at the Red Pearl, Miss Willa?
Well, probably writing book
chapter
2.
In your own book?
I hope. Right? I hope
so. I hope so. Book 2. I think that'd be book like 50. You know,
well, she's 2,000 years old.
Yeah, so, right. So I'm like, she's got a lot of books under her belt.
She does. And then I'm shocked that Casteel at this time can keep his remarks like PG in their initial conversation. Like, I can only imagine what was going through his dirty mind at the time. Like,
my gosh. The like little smirks of his like lip going up, and just like his little dimple showing when he like probably gave like Poppy side eye. I'm just like, And she's like, stop it. Stop it.
Poppy, you're
a big fan of yours. Yeah. Why are you so quiet all of a sudden? I thought you were her biggest fan. And she's like, shut up.
And Poppy usually has a lot of questions, right? So
she was locking him down for later, like, we need to have tea and you need to spill the tea. So funny. But, Miss Willa is part of the council. And now it's time to meet with the council. Turns out that there is actually another member there that has concerns. Surprise. It's Lord Ambrose. And Casteel straight up puts him in his place by making him bow down to Poppy to prove a point about how he wouldn't tolerate anyone disrespecting him or Poppy. And he's like, you guys did not acknowledge her as your majesty. You didn't even bow to her. Like, do it now. And it's just great because that sets the tone. And then let's dive into what happens next. Dun, dun, dun. Casteel shares with them their plan to try and stop the war with the Ascended. The elders do not love learning that Poppy's brother is Ascended and think that they are absolutely crazy for wanting to travel to the Elysium to wake Nyktos. Because they're like, why would you wake a god? This is bad.
I mean, that's in their defense. Like,
to be fair,
it does sound crazy.
Yeah, it's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. This seems like a bad idea. But Miss Willa seems to support them traveling to the Elysium and even then provides guidance on where his resting place likely is. So we're wondering, like, have you ever been there at any point? She says she hasn't, but knows of those who have. And I'm like, who did you fuck that knows who's there? Like, we know how you know people. But nobody asks her who these people are. So it's like, okay.
It's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Someone should ask, like, how do you know people that have been there?
Yeah. Is it from your book? Is it in a chapter? Did you have sex in the Elysium? Like, what's going on? I don't know.
Have you had sex with a god?
Probably. I think so.
Right? She's had to have. Like, how? I don't know. Or is there some other way to get to the Elysium? I have so many questions.
Yeah. But she also articulates that some Ascended can be trusted based on who they are in their hearts and souls, which definitely gives Poppy hope for her brother and for her friends. Miss Willa then also tells them to not enter Dalos, which is the city of the gods, because if they enter, then they will never return. How does she know this? Does she know somebody who went in there, like, and just never came out? Like,
Did she just
Like,
get ghosted?
right, literally, but get ghosted? Like, she watched them walk in and they turned to a ghost? I don't know. Ew. So many weird things that could happen in this book. I just don't even. Anything is on the table, honestly.
Yes.
So the elders give Poppy and Casteel their very reluctant support for these plans, which is really funny since, they don't really need their blessing at all. But I mean, I guess it's good to have it because they always talk about like you have to be in agreement with the council every time in history that they haven't been in agreement, like things went to shit. So it's like, well, at least that's good, I guess. Good luck, hopefully. But after the meeting, Poppy has some questions for Miss Willa about why she was at the Red Pearl, why she sent her to Casteel's room, which she replies then, it felt right to do. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
But she also then mentions that she is one of the greatest seers Atlantia has ever known. So I'm like, well, then no wonder. If a seer feels like she needs to tell you something, there's probably a reason for it. And she also says that she knew Poppy shared the blood of the gods and that Casteel was seeking the same thing as her that night, which was just to live. So she just knew that, like, he was somebody, that Casteel was in need of shelter, of one who could bear the weight of his desires, his love, and his pain, and how he then soon found that Poppy. And you're like, I love that. And of course, Miss Willa knows that Poppy has lots of questions and mentions she's happy to answer them whenever Poppy is curious enough to ask her, or she can refer to her a certain chapter. Wink, wink. So, of course, again, you're like, is this the joining? Is Poppy going to ask questions about the joining?
Is there a joining in that book?
Is there, or in another book that we haven't read yet? Yeah.
Can you tell us?
I want to know.
I want to know.
What do you know, Miss Willa? You know so many
Everything,
things.
apparently.
Gosh.
So many questions.
I love Willa.
So next up is greeting the people of Atlantia as queen and king, which makes sense. It makes me think of the British royal family on like the balcony at Buckingham Palace and how people are like thrilled to see them both, which is a very different welcome than what Poppy received when they first got to Atlantia.
Yeah, it's like they're throwing waves, not throwing rocks.
Yeah,
like, that's
exactly.
Good. Thank you.
It's good.
Yeah.
So then it's time to chat with Kieran, who immediately assumes they want to talk about the joining.
We know what's on your mind. We know what's on your mind, buddy. He's like, yeah.
Right? Yeah. You want to talk about the joining? No. He was just, I think he was disappointed. We were disappointed.
Very.
But that conversation does bring up the fact that Poppy realizes now she'll outlive Casteel because she assumes, like, just as a deity, that she'll live longer than him. So if she did the joining, it would bond Casteel's life to hers, unlike in the previous time we thought it would bond her life to Kieran's. So, and since this is another piece of information that I don't like, so I'm just going to put this out there. We also learned that all Wolven are bonded to Poppy, which means any Wolven could participate in the joining with Casteel and Poppy to make this happen. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no,
we're getting a joining. Kieran. It has to be Kieran.
Has to be Kieran. I don't know anyone else.
No one else. I don't know the rest of them. I don't know if, I know them, but it's Kieran. It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be Kieran.
But the real reason they want to talk to him is they want to make him their advisor, which he's shocked by because he assumed it would be his dad. And so, he's, deeply honored by it. And apparently there's a ceremony, and he talks about how he wants his mom, his dad, and his sisters to be there because he knows that the next baby coming is likely a girl, and which is really sweet. And they'll do it with the balls and all that other stuff later. So
cute.
Now they have that out of the way. It's time to go wake a god. Because, why not? Naturally. Who doesn't do this?
We're not going to do a joining. Why don't we do a joining? Why don't we celebrate this announcement with the joining?
Exactly.
It would have been perfect time.
It would have been perfect time. Or also, we're about to go wake a god. Maybe we should tie all of our people to the god, to the deity. Yeah. Okay. We don't do that.
Apparently not.
But a small group goes off to the Elysium to wake Nyktos. And here's a rundown of what happens. Poppy's
Quest Squad.
It's Quest Squad. It is Quest Squad.
Quest Squad. Quest Squad. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
They're about to go wake them up. And Poppy, it's kind of one of those moments, probably similar to when I realized they were vampires in book one. I was like, oh, they're vampires. And you're like, you just got that. Mm-hmm. Poppy's like, oh, we're going to see Drakens, which are dragons. And she's like, because we talked about that in the previous book, and, Kieran told her they were extinct.
Yeah.
They're not.
Nothing's impossible.
Nothing's impossible.
Ooh.
And she's like all excited about it. And people are like, why are you excited to see dragons?
Yeah.
So.
Because dragons are cool.
Dragons are
That's
cool.
why.
We love dragons.
Love dragons.
None of the royal guards are going with them. It's just Poppy, Casteel, Kieran, Vonetta, Emil, and Delano. I also love every time Emil looks at Poppy, Casteel like wants to murder him. I just think it's so funny.
So good.
Anyways, but their plan is
he's not allowed to join the joinie though.
No. No, absolutely
Better not.
Better not be. The plan is for Poppy to interact with the Miss first, since she has the blood of the gods in her. And she's like, I'm also not going to use my ether because, like, I'm not really sure what would happen. Girl,
Yeah.
we're not sure what's going to happen anytime you use it right now. So, like, let alone down here.
Be cautious.
Let's be cautious.
Yeah.
Vonetta is not as cautious because the fork of the tunnel collapses and she almost dies, but Poppy uses her ether to save her. So, that was good, I guess.
Yeah.
Then... this is the part that was just like, oh shit.
This is too much for me.
Right? It's like all of it's too much for me. The ground starts to shake and holes start appearing and skeletons start climbing out of them with shadow stone blades.
No.
Which is too much, right?
No. I don't like it. No.
Similar to what Poppy remembers her mother having the night they were attacked. And this shadow stone becomes like really important. It starts being mentioned multiple times now.
Yeah.
And Poppy knows those are her soldiers. And she's referring to the women with silvery hair that she's had visions of before. No one else knows who this her she keeps talking about is.
Yeah.
So they fight off the skeletons, because at first it's just like a few of them. And then like hundreds of them start appearing. Then the part that, so the skeletons got you. The snakes coming out of their mouth got me. And I was like,
I mean,
no.
I didn't like that either. No.
I can't do snakes. I've heard like The Kiss of the Basilisk is like a really great book, but I literally cannot read it because it's about
the snake
snakes.
part. No,
I can't.
Yeah, I don't.
I can't. And Poppy is forced to use her ether to create fire, and kills all the skeletons and snakes.
This
like that's
girl
another
is on fire.
There's like a little breadcrumb too, right? That
right?
She can
She's
create
burning
fire
that shit down.
She is burning that shit down. Well, and right, like Casteel made the comment about how he would burn Atlantia down for her. I think there's just a little bit of breadcrumbs happening. Then
or embers. Or they're little fire crumbs.
Fire crumbs.
Yeah.
Oh, I like those.
A little kindling over here. We got all the memes.
We do got all the memes.
Yeah.
All the memes, and we got all the theories.
All the theories. Oh my gosh.
And
then the next part is so cool.
Right? The dirt gets hard, and then it becomes grass filled, and poppy flowers appear, which can't be a coincidence, right? Like, just poppies everywhere.
Poppy flowers. Poppy flowers. Random. I randomly painted this the other day, and just reminded me of Poppy.
Poppy.
Blood splattered. Wow.
Feels very reminiscent of Poppy.
Very reminiscent.
Especially in this book.
Poppies appeared. Yeah. Oh my god, especially in this book. But ew, I could not stand the skeletons and the snakes, and like the earth. What are those things called? What are those things called? Not plot holes. Earth holes.
Little holes coming out.
When the earth sinks in. Sinkholes.
Sinkholes.
That's what it's called. I don't know. I mean, living where I live in California, like you have the earthquakes, you have sinkholes, like that's a real possibility. And I'm like, I don't want that to happen, and I don't want skeletons to come running out with snakes coming out of their faces. No, thank you.
This is why I don't like to go to cemeteries.
And California has lots of poppies everywhere. Do I live in Elysium? No.
Maybe.
No. So they pass
dragons?
by. I wish.
Right?
God,
That'd be
I wish we
amazing.
had dragons. That'd be great. So then they're walking along on this new poppy ground. They see Dalos, but remember the warning from Willa. They don't go into it. They're like, I believe you and I will trust you. And then they end up walking on diamonds at one point, which is like insane. And apparently that's just like a joyous teaser of gods in love, which has to symbolize Nyktos and his consort, of course. Or maybe it symbolizes Poppy and Casteel. I don't know. Like, what if he's a god now too, in a way? I don't know. But then we see a large statue of a dragon at the very steps of the Temple of Nyktos, and Poppy touches it which causes the dragon statue to come alive. And she's like, oh my God, a dragon. What? Like, this is so cool. So, so cool. I am here for this part of the book. And then Nyktos just appears on the temple steps, which is just like, oh my God, you woke up a dragon, a god comes, and he says like, well, like, since you're still alive and breathing after waking this dragon, then it must mean that my blood kneels before me. And so the dragon's name is Nyktos, which is important later. But you're just like, this must mean that you are my blood. And so then Nyktos confirms he saw Poppy and Casteel getting married in his sleep. He saw it in him. He blessed their marriage because, again, the sky went like dark and black and all that craziness. And so he's like, yes, I saw this. I blessed you. You are good in my book to get married. You're like, great. But then Nyktos then threatens to kill Poppy for waking him up. He's like, you woke me up. I didn't want to be woken up. I'm going to threaten to kill you and Casteel, which angers Poppy and causes her to then see an image of the silver-haired woman again and repeats the words, I will not let you harm him or any of my friends. Whoa. That. And then Nyktos says he knows why sleep has been so hard lately and why we dream so intensely. You're like, are you connected? Are your dreams connected? Many questions here. And then Nyktos agrees to speak to Poppy, but only her, and that no one else can enter the temple. And so they're like, okay. So it turns out that Nyktos was actually expecting Poppy, and she actually woke him some time ago, but he didn't initially like understand why until right now. And Nyktos confirms that the god Poppy saw in the Skotos Mountains in Ios was real. So that god Ios was real. And that other gods have now started to stir enough to be aware of the realm outside of the other ones. And some are kind of in like a semi-lucid state. Few are in their deepest sleep. And this feels like it's going to be really important later that like the gods are awakening and like stirring, you know, like what is about to go down? Like this is crazy. And Nyktos tells Poppy that she is so much like her. And she will be thrilled to learn this, which has to mean the consort, right? Like, has to mean her. And we're just like, honestly, I feel again, like Poppy's just like, my mind is being blown everywhere. Like, who am I? Where did I come from? Who am I related to? What are you saying? And Nyktos then shares the history of the primal and how they entered into a blood treaty with the mortals that ensured only gods born within the mortal realm could retain their powers there. So this means that no gods can enter the mortal realm without weakening greatly and restoring to what is forbidden to ensure their strength. This is why the gods haven't intervened and why his consort sleeps fitfully.
Yeah.
Nyktos also shares that a god should not be born in the mortal realm and he is primal, which means Poppy has primal blood in her and is why she is so powerful. You're a god. Oh my gosh.
Well, not just a god, but a primal god.
A primal god. Yeah, like, oh my god. Yeah. So then Poppy's just like, my mind is blown. And she's like, we need your help. I need help from your guards to help defeat the Revenant. And which was still like, ooh. And Nyktos has a super visible reaction to it. And he's just like, they are an abomination of life and of death. And you're like, okay, you don't even like them. I don't want to see them. Can you help me defeat them, please? And he tells her that you are the queen of the flesh and fire. Fire, especially knows fire stuff. Queen of flesh and fire, and do more than one crown, one kingdom. What you seek, you already have. You always had the power in you. We've heard this line. He says the line. You're like, this is so foreshadowing that she can already control, like, so many things, like including the Draken, but doesn't realize it yet. And we're just like, Poppy, you are so powerful. Oh my God, this is insane. Like, just this chapter alone brings you into so much more confusion, honestly, but answers so many more questions that you're just like, I don't even know. I don't even know what's left, what's right, what's up, what's down. Where am I?
Well, I was like, it's like when Kieran mind fucks with her and he's like, I'm going to tell you things, but I'm going to tell you in like a really riddly way so you don't understand it, but now you're perplexed by it. And I'm like, could we have just told her, hi, you're a god. You can already just do this. Like, does she have to figure it out for herself? I mean, the answer is obviously yes.
Yeah, of course.
But also, I'm just like, oh,
Oh my God. It was so much to unpack. And then at this point, you're like mentally and emotionally exhausted from reading here. It just gets crazier.
it does. But so this is one of my favorite parts
Mm.
because we get to back to the palace and
Yeah.
Poppy runs into Gianna, the woman Casteel was supposed to be engaged to and marry.
Yeah.
And Poppy, because she's like
Alistair's
really
niece.
Alistair's great niece or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And Poppy makes it clear to her that she knows about like Alistair's plan to have her wed Casteel. And Poppy's response to her is like just priceless. Because Gianna's like, I don't have feelings for him. And she was like, good, because if you did, I'd probably tear you apart limb by limb, then feed what remained of you to a pack of hungry brats. And basically, it was like, stay away from my man, bitch. Like, and I'm like, yes, queen. Like, yes.
Literally, yes, queen.
Yes, literally.
She was like, I will cut you and
I will
end
cut you. And I will not feel sorry about it.
I will burn you because I'm the queen of flesh and fire.
Fire. But also, why are you there? Like, why did she come?
Yeah.
Like, there has to be more to that.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
don't trust you.
Another one of the Wolven has overheard this conversation and then tells Kieran, who then has to of course, tell Casteel, which, of course, turns him on, as always. As always.
Yes. Yes.
But it
He's
is like
I love it.
I love it. But it is like the first time, like, she's, like, stood up to another woman about Casteel.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can see why that might do a little something for him.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. A little jealousy, a little action
jealousy,
there.
right? Because he's been feeling it from Emil like this entire time. Poor Emil, like I don't even think he like notices what he does.
No.
But Casteel's about to cut him like every time he looks at her.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's pretty funny. Anyways, so now they have discussed meeting with the Blood Crown and Oak Gambler. And like the plan sounds good. Delano and Kieran will go with Poppy and Casteel on a ship, and then another group of people, Neil, Emil, Vonetta, Lyra, and some guards will go through the eastern gates. Like, sounds like a pretty good plan. Like, we'll break up so they don't know we're coming. We'll try and arrive early.
Yeah.
And, like, this is, like, Poppy's first time on a boat. Well, she gets super, super seasick, which is not great.
No.
Until Casteel decides to distract her with sex. Turns out to be great. For them, for us, we'll talk about it. It's really fucking hot.
But I was also like, if I'm super sick on a boat, like, that's the last thing on my mind, And that's
He must be
also,
really good at it to distract that much then.
Yeah. But also, like, I wouldn't want to be, like, having, like, sexual intercourse or, well, sexual anything with somebody who's been throwing up as well.
Yeah. That's
wash
true.
your mouth. Wash
your mouth.
Wash everything out. Oh. I don't know. But it's Casteel, and he likes...
That's good.
He just doesn't care.
He likes things. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
I would say he gives 0 fucks, but he just gives all the fucks.
All fucks. And all the orgasms.
All the orgasms, which this one was a good one.
Maybe that's like a recipe or like a medicinal purpose for getting over seasickness that we didn't know of. Maybe it's like science and we just didn't know.
Orgasms help you sleep. They help you not get sick. It's wonderful.
Don't know.
It's like the Legally Blonde line. Exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you happy.
Happy.
Happy people just don't kill their husbands.
See?
Or, happy people just don't get sick on a boat because they have endorphins from orgasms. Yeah. Right?
It's like science.
It's science. It works.
I'm pretty sure.
It's great.
So after they enjoy themselves on the boat, they have like a serious conversation, which is lots of foreshadowing. So he does talk more about when he was held by the Ascended and how he no longer felt like a person or an animal, but a thing. And how even after he was freed, he would still feel that way. And it would take, Kieran, Netta, Delano, or even his mom and dad to snap him out of it. And none of them realized that this was happening except for Kieran. But he would be brought out of it by someone calling him Cass or Hawk, which is why it means so much to him when Poppy does it. it helps remind him that he's real, which was like so heartbreaking to read. And then it was even worse when I thought about the end of the book. Like, it made it so much worse. And I'm just like, why are we doing this to this guy? Like, he's suffered for 50 years. Why does he have to go back?
He's been through so much. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
I hate that. And then once they arrive at Oak Ambler, they use an old passageway to get into the castle of Red Rock with the hope of trying to catch the Blood Crown off guard. You're like, okay, good plan, good idea. But they notice that there's no guards within the tunnels, which definitely raises some questions for them. But they seem very quickly to ignore that because they see a cave cat, just like the one that Poppy saw as a child. The one that, Casteel and Kieran were like, those don't exist anymore. Like, that's not real. But, there's one right there.
Yep.
But this cave cat looks extremely underfed and malnourished. And Poppy notices that the kind of like weather in like her chest, like, sorry, not weather. She's like is humming. Ether. Yes. Yeah. Ether. It's cold. It's dark in there. Whatever. The ether in her chest is humming violently. And she touches the cat and it glows and it changes into a man with green eyes. It's like, whoa, you're a man. There's a man hidden inside this cat form. And Poppy's like, we can't leave him here. Like, we have to rescue him. But Casteel's like, we don't have time. Plus, this cage is like made of like those bones. So like her abilities like won't work on them to like break them. And Kieran's like, okay, like let's negotiate his freedom as part of our deal. Like, we will do our best to try and save this man. Because you're right, that's not a good thing for him to be down here. Like, how long has this guy been here? So then they run into a guard who has been waiting for them, almost like she knew they were coming. And once again, makes me think there's another mole in their group. How did they know? This guard is supposedly a handmaiden, among other things. Which means like a revenant. Which you're like, oh my God. And then they are surrounded by dozens of guards, and they learn that their other group has already been captured and brought to the castle. Great. Great. And then Ian shows up and confirms everyone's safe. Everyone's safe. And the queen is waiting to meet with you. Don't trust it. Again, like, I don't know, Ian. I don't know, dude. Like,
I know. Well,
I had high hopes for you, but now I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they enter the Great Hall and they see the rest of their group and they see Tawny, who hasn't ascended. And Poppy is like really happy to see her. And Tawny says that the queen isn't what she seems. But Ian stops her before she can say anything else. Probably to protect her and protect other people from overhearing. But you're just like, what? What do you know? What truth bomb was about to come out here?
Exactly. So then the queen enters and a lot of shit happens. A lot. This was like, I had to reread it a couple times because it was like just crazy. So
literally, I was
down.
like, yes.
Like mind
yes,
blown.
Please.
Like so many bombs.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Huh.
So King
Jalara
isn't with the queen. Malik is. And I literally screamed out loud. Not like, oh, I screamed out loud when I read it because I was so shocked. I was like,
what is happening?
Did not see that coming at all. Continues to get crazier. He says the queen has opened his eyes to the truth. Okay, I'm like, well, you've been fed lies. Yes. And the queen is happy.
He just has Stockholm syndrome at this point,
That's what I think, right?
Like no. Huh.
And the queen's like super happy Poppy and Casteel are queen and king, and inquires which of the Wolven Poppy is joined to, but is surprised when she says all of them. So I'm like, how do you know about the joining?
Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, you're joined to all of them. Uh-huh.
All of them.
Did that massive orgy on the beach count? I don't know.
Might have. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Ooh.
So, and then she says that she always saw Poppy as the queen of Atlantia, but married to Malik. Apparently that was going to be Poppy's ascension. And I was like, excuse me, what?
No.
Like,
good, but good to know she wasn't going to become a vampire.
Right, but also,
no.
No? I was just like,
An arranged marriage? What?
Exactly. Well, and then he makes a comment, right, about like it'd be more like a physical ascension, if you know what I mean. And because I'm surprised Casteel did not like murder him in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think he was just in so much shock that like this was all happening.
We all were.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, what? I'm sorry, what?
What? So then the queen makes all these comments throughout the conversation about Castile and the time he was held prisoner to like try and provoke him and Poppy. It also makes me wonder, like, because I've been very curious, like, what exactly happened to him. We get bits and pieces. I feel like that's going to be really important later in later books. I don't know why. I just feel like there's more to it.
Yeah.
And then
Like I
because
wonder
we
now, like, does Castile have like a secret love child he doesn't know about?
so
Things like
potentially,
that. Yeah. Like,
or did she rape him?
I mean, he talks about
He
people
talks
doing
about it,
stuff
but
to
like, did the
him.
queen?
Yeah, right?
If she was
Oh.
trying to, well, if she was trying to get a claim on the throne. Anyways,
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
bad.
She also knows of the ultimatum, supposedly thanks to Alistair, which means he must have been in contact with her and the Ascended from the time that they first told him about that, which wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
But I also still question if there was another mole.
There's gotta
Right?
be.
Like, there has to be. She also says she would rather see all of Solus burn, another fire reference, before she would let Atlantia have a single acre of land. So this ultimatum is not going to work. And she shares her offer. She wants Atlantia. Poppy will claim
Shocker.
Atlantia in her name, swear sovereignty to her. Poppy can still be prince and princess. Yay!
Yay.
Yay! The Atlantia
Just bow
army
down to me.
just bow
Yeah.
down to me. I mean, like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you want this? The Atlantia army will be dismantled. The former king and queen will be tried for treason. Obviously, they'll be killed. And then otherwise, war is inevitable. And apparently, Solus has over 100,000 guards, several thousand knights, and the revenants. And then we find out how a revenant can't be killed. And I was just like, what? What?
We're fucked. We're fucked.
Right? Like, there
Oh,
is
great.
no... Cool. Then this is the part that I was like, well, how are these things made? They're born of third sons and daughters of two mortal parents, which is why, right? Like, the second they kept getting them. And they need the blood of a king or one destined to be one to ensure to reach their full potential, which is also a breadcrumb that Malik no longer fulfills that role.
Mm-hmm.
And Castile does.
Yeah.
Which is why I think this was part, like,
Why
once she knew he was king, she cannot make any more of these.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I hated this part so much.
Right? And then we learn that the War of the Two Kings, which we've heard about, never ended. It was just like a strained truce. I'm like, cool. Did everyone else know that? Because we didn't. And she hasn't seized Atlantia because she's not crazy. She doesn't want to lose half her army. And she doesn't want the Atlantean people to hate her. She wants their respect and loyalty, not their loathing. And I'm like, bitch, you're going to get their loathing regardless of how you, like,
yeah.
They
like,
know who you are.
Yeah, like, there's no turning back now.
No.
Like, you're screwed either way. Because, like, you're either going to start a war this way or, like, they're going to start a war this way. And, like, people are going to find out the truth.
Yes.
They're not going to like you. Like, oh my gosh. But,
But then, bomb school are about to happen. Turns out she's Poppy's mom. Did not see that coming. Was like, I thought she was the grandma, but I was like, wait a minute, you're the mom?
Like, even the grandma part, you're like, hold up. What? And it's like, oh, just kidding. I'm your mom.
Well, because you and I talked before about, like, what if Isbeth was still alive? Like, that was, like, one of our theories. And what if, like, Poppy was Isbeth and Malik's child, then, or, like, not either their child or, like, a descendant of them, right? Like, if her mom was their child. Anyways, so the woman Poppy thought was her mom was the queen's most favorite handmaiden. She was also Ian's mother. And so the queen trusted her to care for Poppy, so no one would know who Poppy was and use her against the queen until who Poppy thought was her mom, Cora, betrayed the queen after she found out about the plan to have Poppy marry Malik to bring the two kingdoms together. So my question is, why was that such a threat? Like, I feel like there's something that we're missing.
Yeah.
Because, yes.
Like, why would Cora, like,
risk everything?
Yeah.
To do that.
So many questions.
Like,
I'm not
saying an arranged marriage is good for anyone, just to be super clear.
Yeah.
But also, that feels like there has to be more to like what would happen to Poppy for Cora to take off with Poppy and make that big of a risk.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like there's more we don't know. And again, like how crazy that Cora, obviously like was Ian's mom. And the fact that like Poppy believed Ian to be her sibling, and it's like in a way like you were kind of like foster siblings,
Yes.
in a way. But it's just like so traumatizing to then find out that your real mother had your fake mother killed.
Correct.
And
Because
then
she survived the
pretended,
attack.
right? Yeah, and it's just like
Ugh.
so nuts.
But then Bomb 2, because that wasn't enough. She's not a vampire. And I love how she like pulls down the curtains. And I'm just like, yes. But I'm also like, Ian's still there. Why would you do that? Aren't there other vampires in the room? Anyways, she's really
It's so
Isbeth.
weird. Yeah.
And that's when I lost my shit for
Dun
real.
dun
Because
dun.
we talked about this. We were like,
Yep.
I think we thought Isbeth was alive. And I remember thinking, I can't wait for people to tell us how crazy we are. Because I think I even said that, because that sounded crazy at the time. And it's not, it's her.
So crazy. So crazy.
So crazy.
I did not expect that one.
I didn't either. And I didn't.
Like there's just a lot of like switcheroos. There's like that Star Wars moment where it's like, Luke, I am your father. It's like, Poppy, I am your mother.
Mother.
And then it's like, by the way, ta-da! Like, what? What?
Bomb, bomb, bomb.
Yeah, like seriously, it's like I need like a shelter from all these nuclear bombs going on around me. Like this is too much. Where are the tunnels to the Elysium? I need to go under there right now because I can't handle it. Oh God, insane. But yeah, we were like, again. So we have those bombs. Here's another bomb. Isbeth was poisoned by Queen Eliana, and Malik ascended her to save her life because they were heartmates. Okay. Bomb number 4. Malik was a god. He was Nyktos' son, and since he was a primal, anyone who carries his blood would be a god. But Queen Eliana never knew that about Malik. So it's like, okay, you married Malik. You didn't know he was a god. He's a god. Craziness. He pretended to be a deity rather than a god because he grew tired basically of being in the Elysium. And Nyktos' children and consort were born in the mortal realm. So she mentions again plural children, which is another breadcrumb about what we learned later in the book. Isbeth believes that she is a god now because a god ascended her. And it's like, honey, I don't know if that's how that works. I don't know. But I also have questions because does that mean Casteel's a god? Like, I don't
It was
know.
vice versa, right? Because Malik was the god that ascended Isbeth. Yeah.
And like Casteel ascended her, but she was a god. So it's like, again, all these math equations going everywhere. You're like, who's what, huh? But supposedly, Malek wanted to stay in Atlantia and fight the Ascended, so he literally snuck Isbeth out. But she couldn't even take her son because it would have been too big of a risk. And we're like, okay, there's so many children here. Like, who's the son? Yeah, who is this? Yeah. Who's your son? And Malek promised to find her and bring their son to her, and he promised to take them all to the Elysium. And you're like, wait, what? This is so crazy. And then Isbeth sees Queen Eliana and King Valen as taking everything from her, Malek and her son. Who's her son? And she believes that they could have stopped it by just telling the truth about her and Malek. And so all of this really is just a bunch of vengeance about how they've all wronged her. And you're like, hell hath no fury like woman scorned, Right. And so Isbeth literally, yeah. It's like Isbeth planned for Poppy to take it all back by marrying Malik and therefore seizing Atlantia. And you're like, okay, this is crazy. So literally, Isbeth says that making Poppy the maiden was about protecting her and keeping her safe until it was time for her to marry Malik. Which then when she's asked about the first maiden, Isbeth literally just says, it doesn't matter. You're like, so there was one? Or there wasn't one? Like, what does this mean? Tell me more. Poppy and Casteel then say they won't agree to Isbeth's term. Shocker. Because they're like, fuck no. But she gets so upset, she kills Ian.
It's like, wait, what?
What did Ian do?
Nothing.
This is so not fair.
Also,
that was just like a bitch-ass move to make Poppy pissed.
Also, one of the things I noticed that could be also completely just, I don't know about vampires, so just bear with me. But when she cuts off his head, right? Isn't that what they do?
Right,
I think so.
Yeah.
He sprays red blood. I thought the Ascended died differently
Now
in the
I
other
don't
books.
remember. I remember there
I
being a
know
lot
there
of
was
black
blood. I thought there was more black blood.
I think the black blood was more with like the Craven
Okay.
and
I just have
the
questions.
Unseen.
I
Yeah,
just
I
wanted
know.
him not to be dead or not be
I
Ascended
know.
or like, I mean,
It just sucks.
it sucked.
But also it's kind of like, well, I mean, I guess Poppy doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
True.
But she's still pissed, clearly. And also I'm like, where's Ian's wife? Was he
Right,
actually
he
married?
mentions like she's at the Capitol. Lady,
Right.
I think it started with a C. She's at the Capitol. I'm just like, who
Yeah.
is she?
Who is she?
Why
What
is
does she
she?
have to why were you married to her? What's the
Yes.
significance in that? Is there
There
significance
has
in
to be
that?
something. Well, because the Queen, Isabeth says at one point, she goes, I loved him like a son, and you made me do this.
I didn't make you do anything.
You
Like, you
chose
did
to
this.
kill him.
You did it.
Like,
Ugh. Whatever Isbeth is, she is a devil. So,
and a bitch.
you know, and a bitch. Big ass bitch. Kills Ian. Poppy loses her shit, of course, and starts to unleash her ether. But it's really not a match for Isbeth's power. And you're like, what? How are you more powerful? And she ends up like choking her and then also kills Lyra. And you're like,
what did Lyra do to you?
What did Lyra do? Don't. And of course, you're like feeling for Kieran in that moment. So you're like, oh my gosh, like that was like a second chance at love. Like,
But was it? Because
ooh.
I feel like he was like, I mean, she's cool.
No. Yeah, that's true. Maybe. But it's like, was he playing it off like he was being chill? But either way, I'm like, Lyra, come on. Like, really? Come on. Very upsetting. Casteel then begs Isbeth to let her go because he's like, Poppy's going to die. Like, I can't. He offers himself up to Isbeth if she'll stop. And you're just like, no, don't do this,
No.
please. Don't do this. And has Malik retrieve Casteel. And we're just
Start crying again.
just like he's just like begging, like, please don't like take her away and like don't do like I'll do anything, you know, and take me instead. And you're just like,
I think that's what
not
she
what
wanted.
Poppy. Yeah, that's what she
I think this woman is playing chess, and I think that's what she wanted. I really do. Because you have to think about it, like, what was the motivation for her meeting them and everything that she says and everything that she does? She has to know that there's no way Poppy would agree to these terms.
Never.
Right? Like, or that Casteel would agree to her terms. So I think it was a very calculated move. I think she wanted to I don't think she ever would have killed Poppy. I don't think she would have killed her own daughter.
No.
Because then
But she always
plan
had
is gone.
Ian as a pawn. Ian and Casteel were always pawns, and she's like, I need
Yes.
Casteel. I need his blood
I think
to make
so.
more revenants. But I don't need Ian. So I'm gonna use Ian to lure her in, kill him to show I mean business, and then capture Casteel.
Fucking bitch.
And fucking Lyra also and Tawny just like end up being
I guess
like
I assume she was stabbed by Shadowstone. I guess we don't really know how she gets injured. So I have lots of questions about it.
Yeah.
Because
Don't know what happens.
When Poppy wakes up, she's like, we learned Tawny's injured, and that Poppy learns that Casteel handed himself over, and that like causes a storm to be unleashed. So she starts to realize that some of these storms that happen are her and her emotions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And hell hath no fury like a woman who's been scorned.
Yep.
She starts going towards O Gambler, and she does not let any of the Wolven stop her.
Mm-mm.
Like, she's just like, oh, no, bye.
Get out of my way.
Get out of my way.
Fly out. Fly away.
Fly out. Yes.
Yeah.
And she comes up to the handmaiden who like tells her, hey, the people in this town don't deserve this. The Blood Crown's already left. And one of the things that's interesting, this handmaiden's also like a revenant. She says, like, you're not going to be able to free Casteel unless you can bring the fire of the gods with you, which has to mean the Draken.
But she can also kind of cause a little fire herself.
She can too. So,
But she's the queen of flesh and fire.
She is. And that's when Poppy realizes she's an actual god. Finally.
She is.
And Kieran's
Finally.
like, oh shit, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Which is why
Yeah.
Ghost had said you already have the power, because she doesn't need his permission to summon the Draken. So we go back to the capital.
And it's crazy that same message, like you already had the power within you, was a message that like the little girl like verbalized back to her. And it's like
Yes.
from the other side, this message was transported to the little girl, to you again. It's just like
There are multiple times it's been said to her, like throughout
Yeah.
this book, that she just didn't get.
yeah. I mean, we didn't really get it. We're like,
We didn't. We
Are
just
you
knew it
okay?
was like something, but we didn't know
Yeah.
like what it meant, or that
Yeah.
like she already had all this power, which makes me wonder if what happened when she was a child when they were attacked. Like because it's clear you've always had this power. This is
Yeah.
not something that came when you turned 19. This wasn't the calling. This wasn't. It's always been in you. So, anyways, we get back at the Capitol. Poppy confronts Eliana. God, I'm just like, I want to call her the queen bitch.
Queen bitch.
But there's like too many of them to
There's
be
too
queen
many
bitches
queen
right
bitches.
now.
All these
So-
queens are bitches.
Right?
Except
for
Poppy.
Yeah. And she happens to be in the room with Laura Gregory and Laura Sven with her, and Poppy drops the bomb that she's a god and starts to show them her power until everyone bows and tells everyone but Eliana to leave. And then Kieran, Vonetta, Niall, and Hesostai too, right? Because they're kind of like Poppy's protectors. And she brings her up to speed on what happened. And how she's like, you knew this entire time why Isbeth wanted your sons and that she was never ascended. And supposedly Eliana's like, I didn't know the truth about her not being ascended until I entombed Malik. And she just didn't want the people to know that Isbeth won his heart and that just jealousy. And I'm like,
Jealousy.
God, woman, like you have created this entire war because of your jealousy and your ego. And that Valen and Alistair knew the truth about all of it. And Alistair killed Malik and Isbeth's son. And I'm like, but did he? But did he?
But children. Did they
Yes.
have more than one son?
No, Malik and Isbeth
One
only
child?
had one son that we
They
know
did only
of.
have the one. But yeah, I'm thinking of Niktos' children.
Yeah.
There's
But
a lot
like
to keep track.
but she just says like Alistair took care of it. And I'm like, but what does that mean? I trust nothing in this book.
I trust nothing. No.
And Poppy swears that like Isbeth's not going to win this time because she's like, I have the power and I'm going to summon Niktos' guards. And then Poppy tells Hesiodus and Word to the Blood Crown that she will meet them outside in the woods in Oak Ambler in a week. And Poppy will only meet with the queen or king. She's like, I can summon you too, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so crazy. So then Poppy and Kieran go back to Elysium to get the Draken. And they see Niktos in his mortal form.
Did not see that coming. Did not think that they
No.
could also be dragons and people.
Yeah, crazy. So we're just like, all right. And so he makes sure like you're ready for war, and then asks like, you plan to take what is owed to you and bear the weight of 2 crowns. She says yes. I'm like, okay. And then he asks if she will help bring back what was theirs to protect that will allow the consort to wake, which is Poppy's father. Because Malek is not her father. His twin brother is. Iris. The one. What? So turns out Iris could shift forms into a cat, the cave cat, and it was the cave cat that Poppy saw as a child, as well as the one that she saw at the castle was her daddy. What? Oh my God. So he apparently left the Elysium, I can't say that word anymore, with Nektas's daughter. And you're like, okay, so Nektas then confirms that Isbeth is not a god, okay? Because gods are only born, they cannot be created. Isbeth, therefore, is an abomination of the gods, much like the Revenant. So you're like,
What is she?
what is she? This is so confusing. And also then it's like, if gods can't be born, can be created, or it can only be born and not created. So it's like, okay, so Casteel is not a god then, perhaps. But like he got created perhaps into like an abomination of some sort because he drank her blood. I don't know. That's like my theory side talking now. I don't know. That's crazy. But then Poppy calls for the Drakens to ride at her side and to stand guard at her back. So you're like, boom, here she comes, all these dragon riders, and just, I'm not that kind of dragon rider, but you know, like, it's epic. Stand on my back. And then back at Avamon, Tawny is still not awake, but this blackness has at least stopped spreading thanks to the healer that Miss Willa brought. And I'm also just kind of like, why couldn't Poppy's like healing powers work? Like, why? I don't know. Like, there's something weird going on here. But But like there has to be something else important going on with Tawny because it just doesn't make any sense for like it to cover like this much space in the book. Like they keep talking about this stuff. So I'm like, what is this stuff? And then before leaving to meet with the Blood Crown, Valen says a few heartfelt words to Poppy. How kind. And then tells her that you need to kill Malik if you see him, like before Valen does. Like, just, my son is no longer my son. You need to kill him. Like, do us all a favor. And you're like, oh God, like that's like intense.
Right?
Like, save Casteel, kill his brother. Ooh.
So outside of Oak Ambler, Poppy's offended because only a dozen guards and one revenant have come with King Jalara. And turns out King Jalara doesn't seem to even know that she's a queen, which is also surprising. Like, he's surprised to find her wearing the gilded crown. So apparently Isbeth doesn't tell him things. He also gets very upset when she refers to her as Isbeth. He's like, that's not her name anymore. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And then he indicates that they're basically torturing Casteel and almost convinced him that Poppy was captured in spite of his sacrifice. And I, like, my heart broke again.
Yeah. You're like...
And then Poppy tells him she's here to send a message. Because she has promised that she was going to send a message like Casteel would. Mm-hmm. And she cuts off his head. Did not see that coming at all. And I was like,
I was so happy, though. I was so happy.
I
was like... But it was also, like, symbolic because of Ian.
Yes.
It's like, you did this to somebody that's important and I love. I'm going to do it right back. Fight fire with fire.
Exactly. And then she fights like a god and uses her power to kill everyone except the Revenant, which we know can't be killed. And then that's when she brings up the Draken. And the Revenant realizes he's fucked. Yep.
Dead.
And Poppy tells the Revenant to give the queen a message with the king's head. Like, here you go. I'm coming for you, bitch. I will burn down every Revenant, strike down every Ascended, and topple every castle. And your survival hinges on Casteel. You will release him, or you'll see every one of your cities leveled. And if she touches Casteel, then Poppy will destroy Malik because he lives. And Poppy knows where to find him. And that Poppy is the queen of flesh and fire, and the guards ride with her, so the Blood Queen should prepare for war. And I'm like, oh my God, queen. Yes.
Damn.
Like, think about how far she's come from, like, book 1 to the end of this book. Or even at the beginning of this book, there's been so much growth for her.
Oh my gosh, yes. And also, can we also mention, there's lots of heads flying in this book.
There are. There's a lot.
Like, it's very much like Alice in Wonderland, like, off with their heads. Like,
well, literally, their heads were flying in the previous book. When they flew.
Yeah.
And
heads are flying. Yeah, heads are being chopped and delivered.
Off. This is why we say the violence and war trigger warning and blood and death. There's lots of it here. There's
a lot of it. So it's like, okay, now I'm trying to also think like, so Poppy's mother is Isbeth.
Yes.
Poppy's father is Irez.
Yes.
Who is the son of Nyktos
and the consort. And Malik is his twin brother. So she has slept with both brothers.
Yes. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but was that her version of a joining?
I don't think so. I don't think it happened at the same time.
No. So she just slept with both of them. I was like, I don't know which one of you will impregnate me, but we'll see what happens.
So Malik was entombed. So when she left, when he had her escape Atlantia, Malik went back to Atlantia to fight the Ascended. He then was entombed by Queen Ileana.
Yeah.
And so then Isbeth met King Jalara and then somehow, I think, was responsible for luring Irez and Nectus's daughter from the Elysium and captured at least Irez somehow and has him caged up and likely
raped
him in order to try and get herself impregnated to create Poppy.
Yes, that's what I mean. I'm like, I needed to like break this down in my head.
Yes.
But but she looks like Malik because they were twins.
Correct. And not everyone's going to know that there was a twin brother, right? Because they were in the Elysium. Like, that's not something, like, we still don't even know the consort's name. They keep saying she doesn't have a name. She's just referred to her as his consort.
Was she the first maiden?
Maybe. I think there's definitely a first maiden. The other thing that's interesting is we know that Malik and Irez were born in the mortal realm.
Yes.
So they have full powers, which is why she has to keep him caged and why he was entombed.
Yes.
But I
So,
think Isbeth's gonna lose her shit when she finds out that Malik is still alive.
yeah. She
I
didn't know.
mean, God only knows what state he's in, but
But yeah, not good. Not a good state. But oh my gosh, this book was just like every theory you thought
mind-blowing.
you had, like you were only correct. Like every theory I thought I had, I was only correct on like 2 of them, and then I had like 20 more new ones pop up, and it's like,
There's so
excuse me,
many.
what? Yeah.
All
But
right,
first, let's
hot
get
and
to the
steamy.
hot and steamy. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this feels like a four pepper book to us.
Yes.
So much
So,
great stuff. So much great stuff.
but no
Especially-
joining.
No joining. We're still waiting.
Damn it.
You know what? There has to be a joining, and it better be really, really fucking good because you and I
Yeah.
have built this up in our head so much. And if we get like, if it does happen and it's kind of like off the page, I'm gonna be so disappointed.
So mad. I'm gonna be so mad.
Or if it happens with anyone besides like Poppy, Casteel, and Kieran, I'm gonna be so mad.
Needs to.
Anyways, okay. So we get to Spice really quickly. We start with chapter 8. And, you know, when Poppy, like, is awoken after being ascended and can't control herself and goes at it with Casteel in front of Kieran.
Yeah, he's just, like, behind her, like, oh my god, what do I do?
But you know what? Like, it's funny because, like, you have that, and then you have her watching him and Lyra and, like, the other, like, 3 or 4 some that was happening at the Wolven wedding. And I'm like, I mean, it's all fair, right? You watched me have sex, now I watched you have sex. It happens.
It happens.
It happens. And then, like, then Kieran leaves the room, and then they have sex again in chapter 9.
Yeah, immediately.
And then, you know, we love a good shower scene. And there is no better way for Poppy's first shower than to be chapter 16. I think you have a quote you have something for that one, don't you?
Oh, I absolutely do. Let's see. Oh my god, yes. Okay. So first of all, she's just like so excited. And he's just like, oh, I'm gonna clean you and I'm gonna be thorough. And she's like, are you still being thorough? And he's like, I think I missed a spot. I think I see many more spaces I missed. And you know me, I'm a perfectionist. I wouldn't want those spots to feel left out. She's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, how about here? Kisses inside of her thigh, or here, and like brushes his lips over the pulsing flesh between my legs. And I jerked. Yeah, I think that one's especially dirty and lonely. And you're like, I think it is too. And she like says, she's like, I've never felt as exposed in the shower because like there's like a bench, and he literally says, you should hold on to that bench. And you're like, yes. And with shaking hands, I gripped the edge of the seat, one side of his lips curved up. Good girl. You're like,
I know.
yes.
Well, it's like, it reminded me of the like hold on to the headboard line from Cassian and A Court of Silver Flames. And then I'm like, anytime we get a good girl line, which he doesn't really say a lot, was just like, which I like because I like it when sometimes when they say it all the time, it feels like overdone. And I like it when it's like, I didn't expect it. I was like, oh, damn.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And she was a good girl. And then he does like a little kind of like bite down there. And she's like, there's a knotted whirl of burning pleasure shot down my legs and up my spine. She's like, I swore I saw bursts of white light. Then his mouth closed over, a finger thrust inside. He sucked deep and hard, coaxing not only my arousal, but a thin bit of blood I knew he drew. My entire body reared off the bench, and my grip slipping. He consumed me.
And us when we read it.
And I was just like, I need to go take a shower.
Right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, when you found out that there was a shower scene coming, I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Her first shower ever. Heavenly. So lovely. But then we get chapter 20. Casteel gives Poppy an orgasm by biting her breast and letting her basically grind on his leg. And I'm like, I did not think that was possible, but oh my.
Right? Well, it's just like, I feel like those bites, it's like they just accelerate everything that she can feel and make her like overly sensitive to everything.
And it's so cute because when this is happening, he's like, I need to reward you for your bravery. She's like, I get a reward? He's like, yep. And literally, it's like he made that sound again, the sensual, rough sound, and then he moved, pressing my back against the wall, the hard line of his thigh between my legs. He dropped a hand to my hip as he pulled harder on my breast. The drag and pull of his mouth on my breast seemed to be connected to an intense throb at my core. Oh, he feasted, and I became frenzied. I was still trembling, twitching, and his tongue soothed over his bite. And you're like, His
Yes,
mouth
please.
closed over mine. A taste of my blood on his lips sent another wave of pleasure through me. And he's like, you really liked that reward. A little. Oh my God. So good. Like,
So good.
Whew, Casteel, honey.
Well, and like we're only through like half of them.
I know. And it's just like, oh,
And these aren't even the hottest ones.
I know. Okay. And then chapter 23, Sex in the Garden, after bringing the kid back to life, which I was kind of like, I don't know if I would have felt that horny after, the near-death experience witnessing. But, it's pretty intense. Basically, he's just afterwards like, oh, what a lovely garden that was. But it was hot, though. It's still pretty hot.
Yes.
Basically, she's just like, there's so many people huddled in this garden. Oh, boy. Maybe we don't. So then we have chapter 24, which the Wolvens go at it during the wedding. Basically a massive orgy on the beach when you're like, okay. And Poppy gives Casteel a blowjob for the first time. And here we go first. We have Casteel and Poppy just like canoodling and watching Kieran and Lyra. And then she says they were no longer kissing. Lyra's head was at his waist and his hand was balled in her hair and his hips were moving. And he says, what are they doing? He's like, what do you think they're doing? Isn't there a chapter in Miss Willa's book about this? And he basically is just like, you don't have to do that to me, but if you want to, do you want to do that with me? And he says, I only need you, Poppy, but now and always, which, we later learn about their rings and whatever that all means. And you're like, oh, so sweet. But basically, they are watching them get down and dirty. And she's like, I want to go somewhere private because I don't want people watching me because she's a lady. She's a queen.
She's a lady.
She's a lady. But his hands fell away from me, hovering at my sides as I unhooked the flap of his breeches. Mm-hmm. And Poppy, he says, you don't have to do this. I want to. Don't you want me to? He's like, you can do anything you want and I'll want it. He's like, my cock in your mouth? I'd have to be dead and nothing but ash to not want that. And she's like, that's kind of flattering. And then he says, God damn it, I love that God's damn diary. And basically...
So do we, Casteel, so do we.
We do. She's smiling. I lower my head, the salty taste of him, surprise, dancing over my tongue. I move my hand down his length, exploring as I brought him deeper in my mouth, just like I had read about Willa's diary. And let's just say, she did a good job. Gave him a nice little happy ending.
Yes,
good for you. Yes. But then I was like, are we going to have a joining?
Are we
going to have a joining? I don't know. And then chapter 31, because, Casteel is also a gentleman and he returns the favor, as we all should. Casteel goes down on Poppy and they have sex. Of course. It's lovely. Basically, oh man, this is a very hot book, a very hot chapter. Okay. So my entire body tensed as I lifted myself and brought my body back down, drinking as deeply from his lips as he did from mine. He says, prove it. Prove that you're mine. And there was a moment of hesitation. Yours, now, forever, always. So she's on top of him for the first time and like learning how to ride him. And he says, I should have known you'd love doing it like this. He says, I love just doing it with you. His hand slid to my rear, cupping it as he rocked me harder against him. He goes, yeah, you do. He squeezed, holding me tightly against him until there wasn't a breath of space between us. And literally, she's just screaming harder and harder. And he goes, harder? And she's like, yes, please. And he goes, fuck, I love you. And basically, they are just going at it. We became twin flames, burning bright and uncontrollable, lost to the fire. Which I think of the fire.
And twin flames. I know.
It was a welcome to madness, the frenzy in our blood and our bodies, and it went beyond sex and finding pleasure. as bad as taking and giving from one another, falling and letting go together, being swept away in trembling waves of rippling pleasure.
But he still hasn't lost control.
And he still hasn't lost control.
Like,
what does it mean?
What does it mean?
When are you going to lose control, my love? Oh, so good. Okay. And then we get chapter.
I know it's weird because she was like seasick, but it's probably my favorite one. It's chapter 43.
It's still good. Yeah, chapter 43.
I mean, he reads to her Miss Willa's diary. Like, he makes her read it.
Oh, it's so good. Honestly, it kind of reminds me, there was one time I had the audiobook playing and I made my husband and I act out stuff that we read in the book.
Like, that's what it felt like, right?
And that's what it felt like. I was like, yeah, I'm into this. But I'm like, is that too much of like an Inception if I like did this, you know, whatever. Maybe, I don't know. But let's try it, shall we? This is so good. He's like, she says, you should retrieve something to eat. And he says, I have. My face caught fire. Lift your ass, my queen. This is a sentence that sounds wholly inappropriate. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Please lift your ass, my queen. The ship rocked and jostled me. My ass did lift, and Casteel seized the opportunity. You're going to have to let go of that desk. I forced my fingers to ease. And he's like, going on that desk. And he says, pick a page, any page. I don't know. Page 238? 238 it is. Read it to me. And he goes, it'd be so very difficult for me to enjoy my dinner and read at the same time.
Or is reading this
yeah, right? And so she starts reading from Miss Willa's chapters. And so this is the part that we get on page 238 in Miss Willa's diary. His manhood was thick and proud as he stroked it, enjoying the feeling of his own hand, but not as much as... Keep reading, Casteel says. But not as much as I enjoyed watching him pleasure himself. He worked himself until the tip of his proud cock glistened. And Casteel is growling and says, I'm sure there's more. And he says, read it to me. You're wicked, she says. He's like, I may learn something. Oh my. And then once again, Miss Willa says, he grasped my hips with those large hands of his and held me there between him and the wall as he slid into me. I tried to keep quiet, but no. We fucked as passionately as a soldier on the eve of battle. And he says, keep going, as he flicked his tongue over the pulsing pinnacle. And I'll keep enjoying my appetizer. He took me hard and furiously, and I knew I would bear the marks of such on the morrow, but I would wear those marks with more than fond memories. I'll think about how his hips pounded against mine, how his cock stretched and filled me. And then there's actual waves happening because they're on a boat, you know. And literally, Casteel is enjoying his appetizer with his fingers and his mouth until I no longer knew what I read, and I couldn't make sense of the words, and the journal fell from my grip. And I shamelessly writhed against his mouth and hand, and release came all at once, rushing over me and stunning, crashing waves.
Literally.
As there's waves on the boat. Yes. And oh my God. And then, of course, he's like, I'm not done. Because this is the best scene ever. He's like, he thrust into me at the same moment his fangs pierced my skin. Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
He said he wanted to fuck her on a table.
And he did.
He
devoured and he fucked just as he said he wanted to. He drank from me as his body moved in and out, and he lifted his head from the tingling skin of my breast and bit into his own wrist. I didn't look away from the bright red liquid. He said, just in case you need it. And he smeared my blood with his. Ugh. Yeah. Like, I don't know. That's just so fucking hot.
I know.
And they're just like... God, they're so good. I love them so much.
So good. I don't know how we top these scenes.
Yes. They're such good scenes.
In the next book, he's being held captive. Like, are we not? What's going to happen?
Yeah. Interesting. Miss Willa, what else do we have in store from your diary as well? I also felt like this was a little bit tame for Miss Willa. Just saying.
Well, we know that there are So we
There are
know that
spicier.
there are spicier ones. We also know that there are multiple people ones, and we also know that Casteel has been with multiple people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's all going to come out at some point.
Yes. I also think we finally realized that he did not actually fuck Willa
No,
because he didn't recognize her. That was one of my theories before. I was like, is he in this book? Did Willa and him meet at some point, and is he a chapter in this book? But he didn't recognize her and didn't know her. But then again, she's a changeling.
So you never know.
So maybe. I don't know.
It's possible. Okay, let's theorize. We got a lot. We're going to
Speaking of theories. Yeah.
Speaking of theories, but we're going to start with a quick rundown of our unanswered questions and theories after the second book and where they currently stand. Okay, so one of them was, will we learn everything about what happened to Casteel when he was held by the descendant? We definitely learn more in this book, but not everything. He does become vulnerable to Poppy and share more, but we still don't get like all the details, which I still feel like is super important.
We need more.
Was Alistair involved in the attack against Poppy? We don't know his full role. We know he was there. And he didn't stop her from getting hurt. But I feel like there's more to the story that has to come out.
Yeah. He like led them there.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
So is Poppy connected to the Wolven? Yes. We were definitely right about there being a connection to them. We thought it could be some type of bond, which turned out to be right, or that Poppy could be a Wolven, which I don't think is the case. But who is the woman in the red pearl? We knew she was going to be important and show up again. We did not expect it to be Miss Willa. Like, I screamed out loud. I still can't get over that. That was a great, like, did not see it coming drop.
So crazy. Which, really quick, back to the Poppy being connected to the Wolven.
Yes.
So we know, therefore, like, she's related to Nyktos.
Yes.
Nyktos could turn into a wolf. Wolven.
And he created the bond.
So that's why she has the bond.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so if he could turn himself into one, because remember the whole imagery of, like, him like, standing in front of the Wolven, I think Poppy can turn into one. I just don't think she's unlocked it yet.
Ooh.
Or her dad is, like, the cat. So can she turn to a cat?
Maybe.
I think she can turn into something.
Something that would be really cool.
Don't know what yet.
Maybe.
So I think
we'll find out that we're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the inscription inside their rings? It's always and forever, which is super sweet. My husband and I have a similar saying, but we say forever and always.
No.
But I wonder if that's a deeper meaning that becomes important later. Like, it feels like it's mentioned a couple times. It just feels like it's going to be important.
Yeah. And also, like, she's a god, so she can live forever.
Yes.
So he'll love her forever. Be married forever? Mm-hmm. Their lives are tied forever?
Is that what happens when Nyktos blessed them? Ooh.
Blessed him as a god.
Maybe.
Tied them.
He blessed their marriage.
Yeah. Maybe that means, like, they're heartmates. Because remember the whole, like, you gotta get...
Yeah. I do think they're heartmates.
This entire thing is their trial for heartmates. Like, this whole...
This is... God, why would... How else can they prove that they love each other, people? Like, seriously.
Right? Yeah.
What more shit do they need to do?
Yeah, seriously. And then another one. Is Ian being held captive like Malik is? Well, yes and no. Technically, Malik doesn't seem to be a captive like we previously thought. So it seems like he has some of the same freedoms that Ian did and like whatever those might be. And also now we know that Ian is dead. Really dead. Like not even like maybe
dead. Not even mostly dead.
No, he's dead. He's dead. His head is not attached to his body. He's dead.
He's like Liam in Fourth Wing. He's dead.
He's dead. Is it possible that all these old bloodlines are not really gone? Well, we're pretty convinced this one is true. And while we don't 100% know, it is looking like we're right, at least on this one, that like there are still some that are around. The Draken are around. She's around.
Seers.
There's Seers are there. So it's like, okay. Changelings, like it's happening. Is the Queen of Solace possibly Poppy's grandmother? No, she's her mom.
Did not see it coming. We were wrong on that one. We thought it was her grandma.
So insane. Yeah, we had to do the whole math thing of like, okay, you're the mom, Iris is your father, but it was Malik's twin who she was in love with, but then all this shit happened, and you're just like, oh my god. So is Poppy a descendant of Isbeth? Yes. Isbeth is alive. Yes. We knew that theory was going to be crazy. We were right, though. Isbeth is her mom. It is crazy. She was also the queen. What in the world? So, this felt like a bit like Scooby-Doo. Like, take the mask off and you're like, oh, it's you.
It was you all.
And you're my mom. What? This is insane. So will Poppy, Casteel, and Kieran ever do the joining? Good God, it has to. We need this to happen. We're convinced. There's too many references to it in this book for it to not happen. Come on, people. And is Poppy immortal now? I think this is a big yes. It's looking like a yes because she's a god. So, but gods can be killed. So it's...
But are they immortal unless they are killed? Like they could live forever, but there is like a way to kill them. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would still make you technically, I don't know.
You can't die from old age.
They can't die from old age.
You can be killed.
But you could be killed.
Confusing.
It's very confusing. But they're like this book.
Yeah. This book is confusing.
In the best way possible.
You can't put it down. Yeah.
You can't. Like, that's something, like, in the best way possible. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the prophecy real? Yes. So, current theories. It is real. We think it is real, but it's not going to be what Alistair said. We know there's a prophecy that Alistair and the Unseen believe that alludes to Poppy being the problem. But we know Willa also says that Poppy is not the great conspirator, but one of two who will stand between what has awakened and the retribution it seeks to reap against man and God. So, think about this for a second. We're thinking this means there is a prophecy about Poppy, and she is the one who's going to protect both kingdoms, and perhaps the other person in the prophecy is Casteel, and that he's been chosen for something more than just her.
One of two
I think
will
he's
stand.
chosen too. Yeah.
Yes, between what has awakened. So the thing that's awakened, is it that the gods are awakened, or is that Malek is awakened?
Isbeth
is awakened?
The
consort's awakened? The war, like, retribution seeks to reap against man and God. That's Isbeth. So, interesting.
And the revenants.
And the revenants, yeah. Where you're like, oh my God.
But it says one of two. So that
one of two.
So I do think there's someone else, and I think it's Casteel. I think there's too much for him not to be chosen with her.
Yes. Like the reason why he knows where the tunnels are, but like didn't go. And like,
yes.
Too many correlating things that are like, this lines up like a prophecy.
Yeah.
And then who is the woman in Poppy's visions? Pretty sure it's, Anikdos's consort, or in this case, her grandmother. Right? Yeah. And that like these visions are going to become more important and get stronger in the coming books. Because they said like, you definitely saw a god. There you go. Interesting. We'll see.
One thing that's interesting is we know that the consort was born in the mortal realm. Or wait, their kids were born in the mortal realm.
Mm-hmm.
So is the consort immortal or
not? Is she the maiden?
Or is she the maiden? The first maiden?
I think she was the first
I don't know. But why would they have a first maiden?
So weird. Or was Isbeth the first maiden?
I don't think so. What was the purpose of the first?
What's the purpose of the maiden?
What is the purpose of the maiden? Because I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah, everything we thought we knew was a lie. And all the things that we're starting to learn may be lies, but may not be lies, but may also be
part truths.
Or part truths, or like, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Okay. I don't know. That one I really don't know. Like about the
I don't know.
I do think there is another maiden. I just don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Will the attacks on Poppy stop now that she has the throne? Even though she killed a lot of the Unseen, I don't think they're all dead. And they're going to continue to cause problems. And I think her focus is going to be on getting Casteel back in the next book and killing Isbeth. But I feel like they're going to come back at some point. Like, I feel like she's not focused on them, and that's going to be a problem later.
Yeah. Yeah. And then who is leading the Unseen? Like, did they travel to Elysium to get the soil? Like, has this other Dark One been the person leading the Unseen? But we have no idea who he really is right now. Seems to be, like, in command of the Gurm, which means he must have gotten the soil from Elysium, meaning he would be a descendant of the gods somehow to be able to travel there.
But, like, who is he?
Who is he? He has, like, a little bucket of soil. Like, how are you doing this?
Well, and so if the Dark One is leading the Unseen, that means that Cora also, I think she knew him.
Yes. And who could it have been? Cora's husband?
No, because Leo was there.
No, yeah.
Leo was there. And he went with Alistair, I thought.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's like, who else is like missing from the story?
I
You
think it's someone we
know?
haven't met yet.
Yeah. Hmm.
Or it's we're gonna get real crazy, okay?
Okay.
So is it possible that Hissa is involved with the unseen, since she's one of the few people who knew about the Elysium's location? Because we know that Ileana, Valen, and Hissa, and maybe Alistair knew about the location, and they've killed people to protect it.
But Willa
And
knows.
but Willa knows. And can we trust any of the royal guards? So we know that there were unseen supporters in the royal guard based on what happened, right? Because they shot arrows at Casteel, Kieran, and Jasper in the beginning. And I don't trust Hessa because and I haven't since the first moment she was on the came on the page. I don't know why. Because normally, like, I would think like a woman who is like leading the royal guard typically is like a character I would be like, yes, badass, super forward. And I'm just like, I don't trust you. I don't get this vibe. So I just question like her loyalties.
Yes. And also their loyalty is not necessarily to the person who wears the crown.
The unseen's not, right? Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, that makes sense for her. I also kind of
So
suspect like Willa a tiny bit because she just knows a lot.
I think she knows the truth. Like, I think she knows a lot of the truth, but I feel like she's like prophecies. Like, I don't think she can tell people. I
Yeah,
think
that's
she
true.
can tell them like breadcrumbs, but I
Yeah.
do think she probably knows who the Dark One is. I do feel like and I feel like she's very intentional with her words to Poppy. Like, when you're
Mhm.
curious, part of me is
Yes.
like, yes, it's about like the joining and all that other stuff, but is it also like, hey, I know you have more questions. Like, when you're ready for the answers, you have to come ask me. Like, I don't think Willow will share things that she's not asked.
True. True, 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 true. Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And then again, we get to the whole, was there a first maiden? Yes.
yes, I think, right?
Did Isbeth have another daughter that was killed by the Dark One? Leader of the Unseen.
Well, because the first, oh,
Is
because the
Poppy a
first,
twin?
oh
Twins run in
shit.
families. Twins run in families. Her twin was the other maiden, perhaps, in some weird way. I don't know. Because, like,
What if it's Tawny?
But
Because
they're
think
not
about it,
identical twins.
right? They could be fraternal.
Interesting. Isbeth is always ignoring this question. So there's definitely got to be a maiden. But who is it?
But who is it, and what was the purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
A
Is
spare.
there
An heir and a spare.
an heir and spare?
Two maidens.
Two main.
Ugh. I don't know.
Okay. Is there something?
Maybe that's Crazy Town. Maybe that's too much
It
Crazy
might be
Town that
Crazy
she has
Town.
a twin.
Well,
I don't know.
we do know that the first maiden we've learned in previous books was killed by the Dark One, or taken by the Dark One, or fell to the Dark One.
Yes. She became the Dark One.
Or
Like a Star Wars thing, like Darth Vader killed Anakin Skywalker
I
because
don't
he
know
was
any of
him.
this, so I don't know.
You don't know Star Wars either?
No, if you put it on, if you put it on, the fastest way for me to go to sleep. I have never watched any of the movies. I will fall asleep in like 10 minutes.
Gosh. This is so funny.
My husband finds it hilarious. I have been to the movie theaters,
You
like
fall
when new ones have.
asleep.
I have went because like I worked in tech
Oh,
for
man.
20 years, and so a lot of developers love Star Wars, and so like when the new ones would come out or something, or like any of the Marvel movies, we would typically like go the first day, buy a bunch of seeds, do it when like the brew houses where they do food and drinks, and I would go. And I literally will fall asleep like 10 minutes into these movies. I have never watched like Avengers, and like any of these things.
Avengers, so good.
Any of them. I can't, I just, it's how you put me to sleep.
How can you go to sleep with all the crazy bombs and stuff
I
going
don't
on?
know, but I
Oh.
can. And like literally, I've never watched Avatar. Does the same thing to me. I fall asleep instantaneously. I
Oh, man.
love Pandora, like the land,
world,
and Animal
yeah.
Kingdom, and the world, and like the rides, but fall asleep.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. So funny.
Well,
Okay.
back to this.
Yeah.
Is there something more to the arrow and the sword being in the royal cross? Like, yes, this is
Yes.
really crazy, okay?
Yeah. Do it.
But it's back to what you're talking about.
I'm
Is it
crying because I'm laughing so hard.
I don't know about vampires. I don't know about Star Wars.
But we have theories.
But I have lots of theories.
Yeah.
As another one, is this foreshadowing that Casteel is equal to Poppy in some way and Chosen too? Is it possible that he somehow has similar powers to Poppy now? Like, because he drank all of her blood when he tried to ascend her?
I think so. I think so.
Right? Like,
I think he's not
like,
a god.
He's not
Is
a
he
god, but
deity?
is he a deity?
Some other kind of abomination.
Mission? But but Nyktos would have known that when he came to the Elysium the first time, because he would have seen it.
But would he have told them?
Well, probably not, because we like to talk in cryptic messages to fuck with everyone's minds.
Right? Yeah. Oh, man.
And confuse
so
us.
Crazy. So nuts. And then again, it's like, is somebody, like, once we're told not to go into a place, like, is someone going to go in there? Like, is someone going to venture into the Shadowlands or Dalos in a future book? Like, I think so. And then we're going to find out what happens. Like, do they turn into one of those creepy skeletons with snakes coming out of them? Like, do they just turn to ash? Like, what happens? Or can only a god go in there? So, like, can Poppy go in there and nothing happens to her?
Ooh.
I don't know. It'd be weird. Or she goes in there and like enters like another realm. Because they've also said this before, like this realm.
Like there's more.
Like there's more realms in the world. Then again, like, did Poppy use her ether the night her family was attacked? Yes, I think so. So since she's a god, she's always had this power within of her. We've heard that statement multiple times, which, you know, she had this power the night she was attacked. Maybe when she was being attacked, like physically, like when she like screamed or like that howl or whatever, she like literally like made them into like just flesh bags and like killed them all, like she did at the temple.
Well, because she said like after that time she didn't know how she did it, she just did it. And so I think she probably could have done that as a child.
Yeah, just instinct.
Okay. Is there a mole in the group? We're gonna say 1,000% yes. There has to be a mole that's providing information to the unseen and the ascended. Is it one mole working with both groups? Potentially, or I think more likely multiple people that are working with different groups. Like, I think there's an unseen mole and I think there's an ascended mole. But there's someone within, like, I think the inner circle. And we also
better not be Karen. If it was Karen,
that would kill me.
I'd be crushed.
I'd be so devastated. Like, I don't know if I would. Oh God, I would throw the book across the room if it ends up being Karen. I'm done. I need like a 2-day. Well, I wouldn't take a 2-day break. I would say that. And then I'd probably be back reading in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Like
but
who?
Like who, right? Like, but we hear Von Natta make a comment about how Casteel's friends have turned on him in the past, which makes me think it's more than just Alistair and Shay. Like, she's very suspicious of people.
Yeah. But could Von Natta then? Trying to like point the fingers at other people?
Potential.
Whoever smelt it, dealt it?
Potentially.
Like, I don't know, man. Okay, and also, what's the deal with Tawny? There's got to be more to this injury and the role in the story that we currently know. We're also starting to wonder, like, why Tawny was selected as leading the wait to be with Poppy. Is she another maiden? Is she her sister? Like, could she be a revenant? Is that what's happening with her injury? Like, she can't technically, like, die in a certain way, but she can get, like, injured and, like... Or is this how you make a revenant? Like, maybe Tawny's turning into one, and, like, the black stuff is how it happens? I don't know. Weird.
So many questions. Okay.
So many questions.
Also, this is also probably Crazy Town, but there is a conversation when Ian sees Von Natta. He mentioned, like, at at Spessa's End, he mentions wanting to continue their conversation. And, like, Poppy thinks he's, like, flirting with her or something.
Yeah.
And it's possible he's referencing when he got to Spessa's End and he potentially talked to Von Natta and said, I want to talk to my sister. I have a message. Mm-hmm. But it makes me wonder if there's more behind it. Like, why would they have said that?
Yeah.
Like,
what is this conversation?
What is this conversation? Like, I've always liked Von Natta, right? Like, I always had, like, good vibes. But now I'm, like, questioning, like, what did you say to Ian in the past and when? Like, is it whoever smelt a Delta, like you said? Like, can you imagine, like, if she's a mole?
Kieran would be crushed. Their family would be crushed.
The family would be crushed. Also, this is going to be really crazy now. I just thought about this. I'm trying not to be suspicious about Kira, but I'm also suspicious about her.
Yeah, maybe.
Or is that why Isbeth killed Lyra? Was Lyra a mole?
And she didn't want it revealed
Yes.
because Lyra knew information. Like, yeah, like why specific? Like, Ian, of course, is revenge against Poppy in some way, or like to show that like I don't care. But yeah, like Lyra was very much like pointed
Yes.
at, like did she know more? God damn it. And what's gonna happen to Casteel? Like he's definitely gonna be tortured. Great. Can't the trauma there is gonna be bad. But like his own brother is going to torture him, perhaps? Like, what the fuck, man?
Now I want Malik dead more than I want Alistair dead, and that was a lot last book.
Yeah. It's like, but ultimately we know like Poppy's gonna have to break him out of there. Question remains, like, what state is he gonna be in once that happens? Like, and she gets there, is she gonna have to start calling him like Hawk and Cass to like break him out of it, like you said before? Like, I don't know. And who was Nektas's daughter? Nektas said her name was Jadis? Jadis?
Jadis.
Said she's a Draken. We can assume she's in a human form. Has she been stuck in her human form for a long time? Ever since like luring Iris to the realm? Do we already know her? Does Isbeth have a Draken cage somewhere? Like she did her father? Like would everybody have seen that by now? Like, who is this? Who could this be?
I don't know. But I feel like that's really important.
Yeah, it's gotta be important.
It's gonna be really important.
What if Tawny was Jadis's daughter? Like the daughter of Jadis and Iris, and Tawny and Poppy are cousins? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Maybe that's crazy town. Just like
that might be...
too much.
Yeah, right? Like who knows? Or what?
Yes.
I'm just like, how did she get him to leave the Elysium? Were they in
Yeah.
love? And that was forbidden? A
Mhm.
Draken and a god?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
So
I have so
weird.
many questions. I have
Yeah.
more questions after this book than I did at the last book. I got some answers. I felt vindicated. We watched Alistair die, and now I'm just like,
Yeah, it's like the first half of the book, you're like, great, okay, this is going smoothly. Then no. Too many bombs.
Too many bombs. I really thought at the end of when we got to Oak Ambler, I really thought they were going to end up capturing Poppy. I did not see them taking Casteel, and like that destroyed me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I hate it.
Let's talk about things that made my heart race.
Ooh.
Every single spicy scene, all the romantic comments that Casteel made to Poppy, like this book took their love to another level, which was like really wonderful to read. It reminded me a lot of, I felt like Onyx Storm was a love letter to Violet from Xaden in a lot of ways. This felt the same way. And I should have seen it.
Said I love you to each other.
Yes, and like just everything that he says to her, like about how he only needs her. And I was just like, and he stands up for her in so many ways and like won't let her be disrespected, but also lets her stand on her own. It was so good. I also loved how she became like a literal badass and stood up to everyone and speaking her own mind and just kind of grew into that. Like watching her, because I think a lot of women are raised to kind of like keep their thoughts to themselves, be quiet, not be confrontational, be demure. And she was like, fuck that shit. And I was like, yes, queen, yes. And that was
she
really
had to
cool.
do that for so long behind
she
the
did.
veil. She's
and
like, I'm ripping this shit off. I'm burning it. I'm burning my bra.
Yes.
I'm going.
And I love that for her. And every time it happened, it just like was like very heartwarming and inspirational, right? And then like made my heart race in like the not so good way that I might have a heart attack, which is like basically everything that happened with Isbeth.
Yeah. Oh
like
my God.
So much, such a short period of time. And there like everything changed the history of what happened. Like what we thought we knew about Isbeth and Malik changed. It was so unexpected. I didn't know that any of it was coming.
And then felt like drinking out of a fire hydrant. You're just like, I'm trying to like consume all this information and like what is happening.
Well, and then like when Isbeth basically starts killing Poppy and Casteel's like begging her to stop, I was just like, my heart was pounding. I started crying and I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Well, because it's not like when someone dies in a book and you have that moment, where like you're sobbing because they die. It's like you're grieving. This was like, I don't know what is happening. I was just like almost like hyperventilating. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like angry and I'm sad and I'm like confused.
Yes.
Oh,
all the things.
Well, and it's just all the things.
Mm-hmm. I hate that.
Emotionally destroyed.
Destroyed.
Hate that. Love that for me.
Yes. It's like, but we'll always come back for more because that's just how we are.
Always. Can I have another?
Yes, please. That's the next. And then things that made my eyes roll / kind of room for improvement. Alistair's death. I want him to suffer a bit more for everything that he's done.
Yes.
All the shit he's pulled. It's just like, you know what? This death is too easy for you. Not fair. But also, I'm like, we kind of need him out of the way. Like, fine. And then bringing Gianna to the capital. Do we really need that? It was such a short scene. He kind of seemed pointless. Like, besides Poppy, like, showing that she was very, like, territorial and, like, saying, keep your paws off my man. Just didn't really feel necessary unless there's a reason she's brought up again. Is she another mole?
Ooh.
What's she gonna do? Like, she's still alive. I'm not ruling her out. Stuff could happen.
Yeah.
And then again, did Ismith have to kill Ian? Like, why? Could you just not have, like, caged him up? Like, as bad as that is. But, like, you're doing that with Casteel. Like, so, like, Poppy would then have 2 people to save and, like, burn down the world for. Like, I don't love that he had to die. Like, that's so sad.
I don't either.
And, like, does his wife care?
We never know if he was, does his wife care? Or, like, we never know, like, was he really still good inside? Could he have been saved?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's what I was hoping we would see. And now we will never see that.
We'll never know. And then
at least
just,
with him.
Yeah. And then just like Queen Ileana, like it just everything about her. She's lied from the very beginning about everything because of her own ego. And like she's basically just like a woman scorned. Her husband cheated on her and now she wants to burn everybody down. And like everybody has to suffer. Even her own family has to suffer for it. Like both of her sons have to suffer. And it just there's no possible redemption arc for her at this point. And like I don't care for her. She needs to be killed. Like bye.
Yeah. Like I don't want to read it. Like I feel like she'll be set up for like a great sacrifice or something in a future book, right? For a redemption arc. And I'm just like, I don't want to read it.
Let's just entomb her or cut her head off and just be like, Marie Antoinette, bye-bye.
Off with her
like,
head.
Yeah.
Yes, bye.
That's pretty much what she's been like, let them eat cake. And you're like, but you suck.
Yeah. What if she's part of the unseen? I just thought that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
She's got a lot of tricks up her sleeve, man.
She does. I don't trust her. I don't trust her. I trust Valen more than I trust her, which is not saying a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of what's next, if you enjoyed this book, we think you'll love, obviously, the rest of the series, because how can you put it down now that Casteel was taken from Poppy? We're dying to see how she will literally burn down the entire world to get him back. There's too many references to fire for burning not to occur, we're assuming.
Yes. Yeah.
Plus, you got to read the prequel series, Flesh and Fire. We're covering all of these books in the podcast over the next couple of months. We also recommend checking out Elsie Whitehouse's debut romantasy, A Taste for Lies, if you love when the MMC falls first and would burn down the world for his love, speaking of burning down things. It's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast meets Bridgerton with a high-stakes heist. Absolutely delicious to read. Available on Kindle Unlimited. Highly recommend it. And then We Still Can't Get Over Shield of Sparrows by Devaney Perry. It reminds us a lot of the first book in the series where we have so many questions and not enough answers.
Nope. Seriously. But that's just what keeps us going, right?
It does.
You know. And then join us later this week when we dive into the world of contemporary romance and discuss Variation by Rebecca Yarros. And yay! And then next week, we will dive back into romantasy, covering the 5th book in the Thrall series, Change by K.A. Riley. Cannot wait. Happy reading!
Happy reading! Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast. And check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And share the show with your fellow book lovers.